Hello, space nerds. Welcome back to the Launch Sequence podcast. We are live today in a little bit of a different situation than you're probably used to. As you can see, I'm a tomato, for those of you who are watching. If you're not here live, then you might be a little confused, but I'm doing this live. That's right. We are live on Twitch and YouTube, and I am joined by the one, the only Mr. Lorstradamus, Astro Historian, Star Citizen, I think Star Citizen Professional Specialist. Yeah, Star Citizen Professionalist. Let's see, Squadron 42 Killer. Oh my God, there's just so many titles. You're like Daenerys, dude. First of his name. Yikes. Don't let any of your hater rub off on me, dude. I am having camera issues, though, for everybody who's watching. So thank you, everybody, for coming. And I am sorry that we are a little bit... It's a little bit weird. Let's see. There we go. And I had him muted for the Twitch stream.
It's fine because you've got my lovely, beautiful face, chat. So you can be mesmerized by my stunning gorgeousness. This is the face that launched 1,000 ships, spaceships.
1,000 Cutlass Steels. The most efficient launch party. But today, guys, I've got a journey for you. We're going to take a little look at what's been going on with Star Citizen this year, not necessarily just to look at it through a drama lens, but I want to look at how ships have been releasing, new factions that have been coming in, and generally what the momentum of content is doing to the game and where it's leading people. Because there are a couple possibilities for where Star Citizen goes for the end of the year, with instancing coming up right now, mission givers coming in. It's a little up in the air, but we have some good signs of what's going on. So thought I'd bring Paul in for a little bit of a general Star Citizen chat. We're going to be all over the place today, guys, but it's a long one, so sit back, grab something good to drink or eat, and join us as we discuss, honestly, the craziest depths of space nerdism on the internet right now. Like, why is everybody still following Star Citizen? Why are you still here, Astro Historian? It's been 14 years. They can't get away with this anymore.
Despite my my best efforts and CIG's best efforts, I still kind of want to see what this thing turns into. My desire for like the best game of all time died in like 2014, 2015, and it's been replaced with like I'm fascinated as to how this will turn out. But in all seriousness, I am definitely still interested in seeing what Star Citizen can do, because every so often CIG will come out and be like, hey, take a look at this. And I'm like, I have never seen another game company do this. Please continue to do this. So
yeah, when you can still get novel things done, it is still definitely interesting to be there for. And I think that's probably one of their saving graces, is like a lot of people would definitely not be involved in this project if they weren't allowing people to play the new features coming out and actually see the work going on. Because it's like you said, I mean, from the outside looking in, it's clear enough to most people that something has been going a little bit awry, that things haven't been occurring as fast. But when you get into the depths of it, into the details, you start to realize there are little things here and there that I actually like. And I don't agree with the rest of the project, but nobody else is doing this, so I want to actually see what's happening.
Well, it's also kind of like we're walking through a graveyard of freshly buried corpses when it comes to video games, and CIG is stumbling through the graveyard, but they haven't fallen yet. So it's kind of like, I'm gonna keep following this dude who's bleeding out and stumbling through the remains of what is the gaming industry, because maybe they'll find a way out.
I'm hopeful. I mean, everybody is hoping that they do one thing or another. I just hope that we get a nice game to play and that they can keep what's currently going on stable. How has the current game been treating you? 4.9 has been out for a little bit. We've gotten some maintenance. We got a hot fix. We got the same old bugs, I think, to some extent. But are you getting a feeling of better performance than 4.8?
A little bit. I mean, I don't notice performance changes as much because I'm just so used to to the low performance, and I also have a pretty decent rig, so the higher performance works pretty well. It's also tuned towards Star Citizen, so I don't notice that the performance changes as much. I did watch 10 Pound 42, who I know is a friend of the channel for you, a friend of my channel too, who talked about how the 4.9's got huge FPS bonuses, and there's been some performance boosts here. I think the biggest change is actually not even performance, but it's just the CIG is starting to listen. The changing in the scanning system and the improvements to mining shows that CIG is finally going back and addressing player concerns of specific playability. For those of you who don't know, who haven't tried, if you turn the scanning mode, if you get close enough to a target, you don't even have to target it, it'll automatically start scanning it, which is a huge improvement for scanning gameplay, because it just allows you to see a target in a general area and then turn on your scanning mode and be able to focus down on it before you even get into gun range or any other range.
Yeah, so from pretty far away.
Yeah, like 10 kilometers plus. In some cases, before you can even target the target, it'll be able to scan it down and target earlier.
That's been, it's probably a little bit low key still, but there has been a core group of like miners and people who are pretty into that kind of gameplay who have been celebrating for the last 7 days straight because of that one.
Yes.
And
it's a good sign, because if they're doing that for miners, they'll do it for us cargo haulers, they'll do it for combat players, they'll do it for FPS players. Like it's clear that they're at least taking the seriousness that roadmap update, where they're like, we want to focus on these specific issues, and one of those was mining and scanning issues.
Right.
And so they're tackling those problems. So.
That is the other side of that. That's really nice is when you crack a rock open and it splits into like 8 different shards. You don't have to sit there and scan each shard for 2 seconds to figure out what it's made of. They all automatically tell you the material makeup of each different break, which has been, oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, even being said in the live chat here right now, Star-Lord said it's got me back into mining, and I've seen that multiple times, and I think that's the interesting place where Star Citizen is like, people will say, I saw somebody saying, oh, this game is dying a slow death. People will say it is, things are not going well. This is bad. They've killed this. What are we going to do? This game's not going to work out. And it's just like the smallest changes can flip people back into the game. A lot of people are saying, I'm not paying attention right now. But if they were able to get the desync together and like get social tools into the game, it would bring so many people back. And so it's hard to look at Star Citizen in the current moment, take a snapshot of the PU, and then make some kind of a flash judgment about how the whole game's trajectory is going, because it can change week to week based on how unstable and how finicky the servers are.
That's kind of a problem, though, is that I think when it comes down to it, CIG experienced, whether they admit it or not, they experienced another 318. 4.8 was 318, and not because the same problems were happening. It was just the volume and magnitude of the issues and how publicly facing and problematic they were. That was almost similar. And I've said it for a long time when I talk about Star Citizen, that perception is reality. This is just the world we live in now, unfortunately, is that it doesn't matter how much you know the technical details or how much CIG can explain something. It doesn't matter. People will come up with their own reasons. They see a buggy game, they see a bad patch, and they'll go, this game is a scam, this game is going to die, these people are cultists, whatever. And one of the things that's the problem is that you and I have both experienced, I know, the game in some really good forms where like you get an experience, you're like, wow, this is amazing, this is great, this is fun, this is engaging. But CIG goes from those highs of like, this is the best game ever, to games dying, it kind of swings, and it's because they can't keep that consistent flow of making the game stable, keeping the game engaging. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge they have going forward, is to try to like level those peaks and valleys out to become more of a consistent experience. Yeah,
agreed. I mean, and that seems like it really felt like that was what they wanted to do last year. I mean, we know that they were focusing on Squadron, but their goal last year was just to like have a solid baseline for people to operate on. And I think the hope was that my hope was that they can find a way to continue to do that, because at this point they have to do that. I'm 100% on the boat of it's alpha. They should be putting features in, testing them, and like getting us closer to a finished game. That I'm all about that, but they don't market it that way. They don't talk about it that way. They don't advertise that way, and so I don't think they can do that anymore. And that's created this like expectation where they need to have some kind of a baseline that's stable, even if they're going to keep putting in stuff like instancing and refueling and new features.
There's solutions that are out there that they could do, which they won't do because it would require fundamental restructuring of how they do things.
They rhyme with mech key view.
Yes. No, the thing that I've been talking about, but again, I don't think it'll actually happen, but they could do something like with the mech T-View, as it were, is one of the biggest problems is that when they put something in game, they're putting part 1 of 7 into the game. Because the way the game features work is they're all interconnected, so that when you put in, engineering, for instance, and say, give us feedback on engineering, but we don't have Maelstrom, we don't have the new flight model with things like quantum boost, we don't have atmospheric flight surfaces, and all of those things together give us the actual flight experience. So when they say, here's engineering, give us feedback, people are immediately going to look at engineering and compare it to what we already have and go, well, it's worse. It's worse because I now have to do this, this, and this, because they have tuned it for the game that has, armor values and be able to quantum boost, and the flight changes are different, and how the ships react in atmosphere, because in like Squadron, they have all those things. They just don't have them in Star Citizen. So the best solution is to just get a build that has all those things in it and be like, give us feedback on that, which was where the tech preview could come in.
Yeah.
But they don't want to do that. If the second they get something done, they're going to push it into the game, which is good, but then it has the problem where as time goes on, tech debt happens, and then whenever they get the next part in the game, they'll have to go back and fix that problem anyways. So I'm with you on board of the push everything in and have it broken and fix it later, but they just can't do that anymore. That's where the tech preview though could work, where they could start putting those things out there to give us access, not just Evocati, but everyone access to get feedback on it. And I don't mean feedback as in like, oh, but this doesn't meet my expectations of the perfect spaceflight game. It's more of a, does this work together as a game?
Yeah, is it breaking the game? Even if it's not
like, is it breaking the game? Does it feel like it like all the different pieces work together? Is there not necessarily of a, I don't like this because X, it's more of a, this doesn't work because this other thing you've added clashes with this idea. And those are the sorts of feedback that CIG should be seeking, because getting the game out is more important. But we just don't have that yet. So until then, they're going to have to, I think they're going to have to make the experience similar for everybody.
I keep saying it. I really wish that they were just able to do the same thing. We see it on a lot of different games, but my example is Satisfactory, when they had the live build and the experimental build, and it was like, if you wanted to have a normal day of gameplay where you just wanted to play Satisfactory as it's being built, you go into the live build. If you wanted to test their new features and actually see like what's the cutting edge kind of stuff that's not really in the game yet, you do the experimental build. And I think at the end of the day, CIG just doesn't have enough money to do it, and that's why they're not doing it. People are going to laugh their freaking asses off hearing me say that. They've made a bunch of money, sure, but they're not putting it towards Star Citizen all. They're putting a lot of it towards Squadron, and a lot of it's already been spent. I mean, most of it's already been spent. They've got like $5 million in the bank, right? Or no, they got more than that. But their margins are tight. They're focused on Squadron. They're trying to still fund making ships because that funds everything else. And so I just don't think they have the capacity to be testing this stuff as much as they want to.
No, that's one of the consistent things when I talk with people at CIG off the record and even on the record at like Bar Citizen events, is that like they never have enough resources to do what they need to do, which is funny because one of the things that seems to have happened is that since the conversation with Benoit, about a month ago or earlier this month, they have moved resources into the things that Benoit was talking about and what they were talking about in that roadmap roundup.
Right.
And it's gotten things changed very quickly. Because it's easy to fix a lot of these problems. It just required 4 people to do it. And before they only had one person, that person was doing 2 other things. So they're like, that's a fix that I can figure out later. I got to figure out the instancing issue first, rather than how the website connects to the ships so that we can do live updates from the ships. And then they're fixing the Matrix of Lies, so it finally actually reflects the in-game.
Dude, that's crazy.
But that was a resource issue. Like, I've talked to people who've worked on the Matrix of Lies, past and present, and all of them have said the same thing: is that like it's one person who's in charge of it, and they're like, I got 4 other things to do. This is my like side project. So actually getting more than one person, or maybe just one person dedicated to it, they could probably knock it out pretty quickly because they have all the back end issues already like set aside for it. It's just that's same thing with like ship naming and a lot of problems that people have been complaining about they're just resource issues. They're not gameplay issues. They can fix it. They just don't because it's not as valuable.
I do want to clarify to everybody who's listening. Matrix of Lies is the ship matrix on the website. And
yes,
what he is saying is that the ship matrix, the place where everybody is pointed to go find out the stats for the ships in Star Citizen, has not been accurate. Like, I go to the wiki. I go to the player-run Star Citizen wiki for information on ships because the website itself was so inaccurate for a decade plus. And they're finally getting around to fixing it.
And we're talking about basic stuff like type of chip it is, in terms of like it's at certain points the web store would have a different name for like the classification of the ship than the Matrix did. Sometimes it would have completely different size components, weapon loadouts. Often they would use older images like concept images compared to the release version of the ship, so they look somewhat different from each other. So yeah, the community called it the Matrix of Lies because it was just lie. It would just lie to your face, and the comparison stuff was just all very old. So yeah.
Now I want to go back to something that you said earlier about CIG listening. These changes coming in 4.9, things are looking a little bit more performant. Like you said, 10 Pound did put out a video that showed, at least measurably, he is seeing an improvement in FPS at Lorville, the biggest this year so far. This also coincides with the mining changes and the scanning stuff. As you said, now when you turn on scanning mode, you get told what mineral you're looking at. There's no longer, well, there are signatures, but now when you scan it, you get told the actual name of the mineral, which is a big improvement, but it also shows a little bit of a move to streamline things, make them a little easier. It obviously makes mining work better for people. They're excited for it to see these improvements, but at the same time, I want to draw people's attention back to something they said about deep space exploration back in the day. It's the kind of thing that the folks will roll their eyes at, but yes, CIG has talked about exploration. You can go find it. It's still out there. And they talked about the idea of sending probes out through quantum travel, scanning down signatures, creating beacons for you to then jump to those signatures to see what they are, and the mystery of how your beacons might not get the full signature. So you kind of have to like guess and think about it based on your own experience in the game, based on like how it rendered the signature for you, like the shape, but maybe you don't get the full silhouette. And for a lot of folks, that was kind of an exciting idea of finding things and determining whether or not they were worth your time to actually go travel out to. This change to mining with scanning and just giving you the name of the asteroid is streamlining that process. And I'm not saying these two things are related, but do you feel like there's two different philosophies at play there? And is there a risk of CIG trying to streamline or simplify or make these things work better that could eat into some of that more complex gameplay folks were looking for?
Yes. There's no doubt in my mind that they're streamlining and simplifying some things. But as I'm sure you're aware of, and I'm sure many of the people in the audience are aware of, there's a lot of complicated things in Star Citizen which haven't been released yet, which will eventually be released at some point because they're vital to the gameplay. So I do think that there is probably going to be a simplification of a lot of features in Star Citizen, which is just designed for playability. It's clunkiness. I'm a huge fan of Arma. I have hundreds of hours in Arma 2 and Arma 3, both in mods and not unmodded. It's a good time to play Arma, but I am not at all unawares of how complicated and clunky playing in Arma is. And I'm sure people who've played in DCS also understand the similar thing. Whenever you're looking at any kind of simulation gameplay, an attempted simulation will always have clunk, because I can just do this and move my hand closer to the camera. But if I was to do that in a simulation, I would have to be able to look at my hand, move my hand up, and then move my hand back and forth with, say, my mouse. So there was this like a 3 or 4 click process, which is going to take me a lot longer to do than just automatically doing that. And that's just a simple explanation of just like when you do simulations, you have to add clunk to make it work. So what CIG seems to be trying to do is simplify some aspects of the sim so that they can do the more complex additions later. So like the scanning process, I could 100% believe that they'll have at long range scanning resolutions, and that process will be send a probe out or do a long range scan, and you'll get a general idea of what's going on out there. But it's going to require like high end like scanners. It'll require maybe a probe, maybe it'll require power to be distributed properly to it, or overclocking. There'll be some sacrifice as part of that, which ends the sim thing. But the better your scanners are, the better you get of the answer. So like you're rocking a Carrack, you look at something very far away, you know exactly what it is. But if someone's in a Terrapin, they have to get closer. You know, that's just gameplay balance. Yeah. And it might be simplified in the sense that if that Terrapin is half the distance the Carrack is to the location, it can also see what a Carrack can see at twice the range. And with a simple click, that's fine, as long as the simple click also adds some level in the background. And like, we still don't have full integration of engineering yet. We still don't have proper multi-crew gameplay. We still don't have the new scanning tech even in the game. So there's lots of like other factors which we don't have yet. So simplifying some of the processes now to make it easier for players to learn how to play it, and then adding complexity the more high-end the missions or the gameplay is, I think it's a good process. It's a good idea for how things work. So,
but can they pull it off?
The simple answer is, yes, they are simplifying it, but they're not making it dumber. Is the hope, at least, based off of what CIG has said in the past.
Yeah, and you got a point that like, a lot of times the complexity of gameplay can come through the different systems meeting together, not necessarily from a system being complex. Like Salvage's gameplay can be as simple as scraping the hull and pulling components out, but the act of getting to that ship, of maybe moving your way through like a dangerous asteroid belt and scanning down the asteroids and figuring out which ones are actually wreckage versus which ones are minerals, and like maybe the loadouts of being able to carry salvage charges with you and then EVA into the ship and blow certain components, and then like the ship still has oxygen that's pressurized or something. Like all of that adds together to make salvage very interesting, whereas at the end of it you could just be complaining that somebody's shooting a beam at a ship, not paying attention to the fact that there's way more to the gameplay than just that beam.
Yeah, that beam should be the end result of having discovered it and finding it. And you mentioned like salvage charges, or I was just thinking like maybe even using scanning to be able to tell the composition of the hull, so you know what the hull is even made of if you even want to scrape and salvage that ship, or the understanding using scanning to like understand the composition of the doors that are blocking the components, so you can be like, oh, it's going to require this much of a charge to blow this door open rather than this much of a charge. So there's that like nuance of what level of detonation do you want to be able to get access to? Because if you decide to just slap highest yield you can on a door to get into a ship and you just blow the ship up, it's like, whoops. That's where the complexity can easily be dialed in, and that's just it's just a button on a charge that you change depending on your scanning results. And that on top of everything else that's before and after that is the complexity. As long as it's not tedious, that's the biggest problem that CIG is going to have to grapple with, is tedium. Because if I go through all that process and I rip a hull apart and I rip everything else I can, I have the perfect charge placements, the perfect charged yields, everything, and then I spent like 2-3 hours doing this one ship and I get 7,000 credits for my trouble. It's like, why bother? I could do something else and make more money, or I don't get something that is giving me an indication that I'm progressing in some way. That's really the actual issue when it comes to complexity, is how is the juice worth the squeeze? More than just is it the game fun, but also is this game fun, and am I actually getting that V8 at the end and not just, Kirkland brand tomato juice.
Hey man, Kirkland brand's not bad, all right? They do some good rebranding. And let me tell you, the squeeze, the juice is worth the squeeze. The question is the squeeze pleasurable? That's what needs to matter, You're getting juice at the end, sure. What do you tend to do in game? I wanna hear your opinion of whatever it is you like to do in the game for normal gameplay, and how that has changed between 4.8 and 4.9, because I do want to dive in on this. Everybody is sitting here thinking CIG has said before that they want to fix stuff, and they'll say all kinds of words, they'll put out all kinds of videos, and sometimes it might stick for a little bit. But I want to discuss whether or not this feels like it's something that's longer term or not, even though obviously we're still in the first stages.
So I am a entrepreneur of the highest quality. I only help orphans with their artisanal, upcycled medicinal supplements. I have no idea what you're talking about anything else. It's completely legitimate. I tend to work with Our Lady of the Dead Saints, with Sister Ticia Pacheco.
Oh yeah, she's all for the kids.
Things. Yes, for the children, for the orphans, for the orphans. But in all seriousness, I tend to do trading, and I will say that trading is, it hasn't really changed much in the last year, because the same problems exist, which is the elevators, the cargo elevators are the problem. They will work sometimes, and there are tricks you can do to get them to work, but often elevators are intentionally broken by players being jerks, or unintentionally broken. There's problems with things like just litters of ships that have been abandoned because of bugs, because of disconnects, whatever reason, that just aren't being cleaned up. And then all of that combined together means that you've got probably a 60%, if I'm being generous, rate of success. And the bigger the load, the more problems you'll probably have, and the more complexity, and like the more locations you have to go to pick up or drop off, the higher the likelihood of failure. And in 4.8 and 4.9, I haven't seen much of a difference in that gameplay. It still seems to be about the same. But it comes down to the freight elevators, the problem. It's not necessarily the problem of the actual missions, because usually the missions will complete if you can get the cargo into the final location. It's getting the cargo into the elevator or out of the elevator, which is the problem.
Yeah, the cargo situation for me in 4.9 is worse than it was in 4.8. I'm taking missions and I show up to locations and I don't even get cargo sometimes. Sometimes it's at only the second location. Sometimes it never shows up. And then these people are calling me, asking me where the heck their RAM is because they put in an order 2 days ago from Hurston to deliver it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Hurston's keeping it for themselves. So you see how much it costs?
Well, someone also was pointing out, it's like, oh yeah, the player broke the elevators for 15 years. First off, the elevators haven't been around for that long, but that is correct. It's not just the players. It's also, there's something going on in the background that's causing problems with bugs. But it's noticeable when you go to an elevator and it says blocked because X thing, and it's like that X thing CIG didn't put a bottle of Slam or a bottle of Cruise into the like invisible boundary between where the elevator is and the door. Yeah, that's a player, or a player, or an elevator breaking. Often because players will just backspace on top of them, which blocks the elevator or causes issues. Like I said, there are workarounds you can get it to work, but I think that has more of a fundamental issue specifically with elevators. I mean, how cargo elevators have become such a focal point. They're so important to the game for everything that CIG needs to focus on them, and CIG seems to have built them, had some problems last year where they sort of made some changes and then just ignored it, doing small fixes here and there, which is what Benoit even talked about, how like they needed to go back and fundamentally relook at elevators in a way that is more automated, similar to the transit system that they hardened.
With hindsight, obviously, it's crazy to look back at the freight elevators being worked on by Chad McKinney, how complicated they were, how much work was going into them, and then CIG released them to instability, but then also let go of the guy who made them work simultaneously while tying them into just about every single part of the game. It's just like a really bad idea, and it's not gone well.
That is a completely different discussion that I don't want to get too into, because people already get mad at me for talking, being mad at CIG for things. So, but it is a I think it is kind of indication of the sort of things that CIG needs to fix. It goes back to that. They need that baseline. There needs to be certain things that always work, no matter what. When a player logs in, these are the things that have to work in order to even begin to fix some of the problems with the game. And those are things like elevators, cargo elevators, the transit system, the ships need to be able to fly and function. And things like disconnects and star map, disconnects, quantum jumping, those sorts of issues. Because I personally, those are the biggest issues that I have in the game. If those issues were magically fixed overnight, there are other issues with Star Citizen when it comes to content and improving the content and changing the content. And I've talked a lot about like sandbox versus the balance with sandbox and a theme park that CIG needs to strike. But those conversations can't even begin to start until they fix these basic issues, which are what most people are complaining about.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Benoit was trying to get at. Well, not Benoit, actually. That was, I think he said it during his Star Citizen Live, but when they put out the roadmap roundup, they said like they want to focus on that first hour and making sure those things work. And I think almost everybody is just sitting back being like, why hasn't that been the priority? Why hasn't
Especially since 4.0.
Yeah, since 4.0, I think that was like, it's really strange that I thought that was the goal, Okay, we've got server meshing in. Now let's set a baseline for where people understand the game is and test things in the tech preview. And we've just seen that not happen over the last year.
Yeah, it's a weird issue. And I think a lot of people point to Squadron as a culprit. And I think that has to do with it. But I also think that CIG is kind of like the dog that caught the car, where they got 4.0 done. And so they got server meshing in. And it's like,
Now we have to make a game.
It's improved. It's improved performance, and we actually got the tech in. Now we actually have to do stuff. And so they're starting to look at everything else they've been ignoring while just dedicated to focusing on getting server meshing out. And they're going, oh, there's a lot broken here that we need to fix, or a lot of things we need to replace. And they just don't, as we said before, the resources. They just don't have the time or the resources to invest in all of them at once. So they have to like figure out how to fix it. And that's the problem is I'm sure at CIG there are discussions and arguments on what should take priority. And I think what we saw this month with Benoit and with that roadmap roundup is effectively they came to the decision, these are the things we need to focus on, at least for the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Then we'll see in January if they want to change their mind again.
So from what you've seen so far, have you seen, I mean, obviously the cargo problem is a pretty big one that we've acknowledged here. And we didn't keep, oh, I'm sorry. Did I mute myself again? It's so strange how there's like, there's some magical key on my keyboard, and you guys who are listening to the podcast, you're getting this week in, week out. I'm sorry about that, but there's some key on my keyboard. I'm actively recording down the chapters as we go, so I have to type these in, and I think it might be the S key, but something mutes me on Discord every time. What I was going to ask was about, geez, now I forgot what I was saying. Somebody else in the podcast probably remembers. I was kind of continuing the conversation though in where things are going right now. We are at a really weird place where 4.9 has released and kind of things are fixing themselves a little bit, or things are getting fixed a little bit. As you said, there's improvements to mining. The FPS seems to be a little bit up, but on the other side of things, cargo is not showing up in freight elevators. Still a problem. People did not get their materials carried over from 4.8 to 4.9, which is huge for crafting. And there's still desync and instability. I freaking was running some bunkers the other day, and the guys weren't even wearing clothes. They were just cowering around naked, and I had to execute them to get my credit for the mission. It felt terrible. And I don't know if somebody said that might have been because CIG meant to put the new Ninetales outfits in, but then they pulled them back to put them in 410 and didn't give them the old stuff back, so they're all just naked in game. I don't know if that's true, but it felt not very stable. So my question to you is, 4.9 seems to be making some changes, maybe a little bit of regression in other places. Do you think this is actually going to stick as a trend? Do you think Benoit has got enough behind this effort to keep this going, or are they just going to fix it for a month, drop instancing in, and then you think it's going to go back to whatever was going on in 4.7?
I think it's going to be a constant battle, but I think that there's probably enough movement because of the shame from 4.8 that they got he probably has at least until September, October. November, it's all bets are off. It's whatever Chris wants for November because he thinks it's going to be a big, because he wants the big sale to happen. They want to have this. I guarantee you, internally, they're trying to push for their IAE to be their biggest sale ever, because the last sale for DefenseCon was the biggest sale ever, period. I think it even broke the record of, it broke the previous record from last IAE.
Yeah. So,
November is all bets are off. I think it's whatever this is going to make them the most money from that sale. But until then, I think Benoit probably has the mandate to continue this. But I've talked with a couple people who I know who I showed them who are Star Citizen fans and showed them the roadmap roundup and sort of like what they were doing. And these are both people who work in tech around like more not gaming but other things. And both of them said, "Wait a second. What do you mean they didn't have these automated systems for checking or for like registering, like cataloging bugs? What were they doing before?" And because that still hasn't explained. And a lot of them said, "Yeah, this is good. It's a good change, but this is not an overnight change. This is a multi-month process to build out and get these things out there." And CIG is a tanker, not a speedboat. It takes them at least 6 months to change things internally, and then once it gets solidified inside their culture, then it remains like that until something else changes. So I think that Benoit or whoever is behind this, I'm assuming Benoit, because Benoit was the face on the SCL, and a lot of things that he said in the SCL mirrored that roadmap roundup. Whoever's in charge of this probably has enough buy-in and enough of the mandate to get this through to close to the end of the year. Do I think this is going to be a permanent change? I have no clue. CIG has changed on the dime a lot. I was recently watching the infamous year of stability video with Benoit and Jared, and I was like, because someone had linked it for something else, and I'm like, this is the one from July, and then I looked at the actual like date, and I'm like, no, this is the year of stability video. Why do they sound exactly the same? And that's a problem when you're looking at two videos that are a year and a half apart from each other, and they're the same story, just slightly tweaked. It shows that like there's still a long way CIG needs to go, and they can still fuck it up. So we'll have to see. You're muted again if you're talking.
Sorry, I was completely muted this time. I do think in that video, they made a mistake of mentioning stability, because they had the plan laid out. They called it playability. They included the fact that content was going to be in there. I don't know how many times during that video they may have called it stability, but I think that completely stole the message, because clearly it wasn't a year of stability, right? Like, it was a year of just keep people playing. And I think,
well, it was context. Like, a lot of people forget that right after 4.0 released, it was a shit show. It was worse than, almost as bad as 3.18, but the difference between 3.18 and 4.0 was that everyone was expecting 4.0 to be a disaster, because it was such a big technological change. That video was in February. 4.0 released officially in January. So it had been a month of just constant major issues in terms of people being able to play, servers being up, or the famous death loop, where like a server would crash and be brought back, and the same thing that caused the server to crash would crash it again. So you had like a restart loop. Those problems were everywhere. And so when Benoit was talking about it, what he was talking about was, we need to improve server stability. We cannot have these problems. And I think overall, he was successful. Like, generally speaking, I don't see very many 30Ks happening outside of very specific limited issues that are usually patched out within, a patch or sometimes a hotfix. And I'm not seeing a lot of server restart loops. It's just not a conversation in the community as much as it used to be. So with the context of what he was saying was true. The problem is as we all know, Star Citizen, or just maybe gaming in general, is where context goes to die. So it was a mistake. I do think it was a mistake in the sense that he said, this is the year we focus on stability and playability, and people assumed that meant no more bugs, everything they wanted in the game's gonna be out.
Yeah.
So, but that's an issue of just, that's an example of how CIG needs a PR team. As much as I loathe to say that they need to have suits telling them what to do, they kind of need suits telling them what to do, at least just to make them pause and go, did you think about it this way? Somebody who's professionally looking at the community and looking at the feedback of the community, and also has a seat at the big board where all the managers sit to like tell them no.
Well, they've
this is not how
definitely
we respond to it.
They've definitely been letting less people speak on camera about definitive stuff over the last year and a half. Like,
True.
they've put Benoit in the chair a lot more to answer things than just letting anybody kind of talk about it. Let's talk more about the gameplay. We've talked plenty about stability and the fixes and stuff that they're doing. Let's talk about the gameplay that's been being introduced and where it seems to be headed. First, I want to touch on the factions that are being added in. We've seen a storyline kind of developing. The Vanduul smuggling storyline from Dr. Yorit and Pyro and Stanton took us to Nyx in the beginning of the year, had us fighting a new group that was kind of dealing in this illicit trade. And since then, we've been like not really following a storyline, but more so of like a growing I guess in the lore sense, it seems to be a growing sense of conflict and activity in the Nyx system that we're like actively going through chronologically with the game. Clearly it's leading somewhere. How are you feeling about the way that they're introducing factions and linking them into missions, and like now we've got a mission giver who is kind of giving stuff that goes against it? Does it feel tangible? Can you follow it? Does it make sense? And does it feel like it's headed towards a good conclusion for the year?
Those are completely separate things. I'll try my best to answer both.
Let's start with with one then.
So, can you follow this thing? Yes, I think it's actually simplified compared to what it used to be, which is good and bad. It's simplified in that because it's simpler, it allows for more people to follow it lightly. So it doesn't require a lot of attention, which is a trend that tends to happen when games are trying to produce a lot of content and don't have a lot of resources, which meshes with everything I've known about CIG. It's simple in the sense that you have the Shattered Blade. We know they're connected to Yort because they're the people getting Yort all these Vandal tech. And effectively, it's just sort of the Vandal are attacking because the Shattered Blade keeps ambushing them and taking their tech, and the Vandal don't like that, so they keep showing up to fight the Shattered Blade, and then the People's Alliance and Intersec are getting caught in between.
The Vandal are so touchy, dude. Jeez, just let them steal it. Gosh.
Well, the Vandal culture is very honor-based in the sense that if you ambushed and raided one of their clan members, then they will come after you. Because it's like, now you've insulted them. You've said that they're weak. And they can't show weakness because weakness is bad. And that weakness will lead to revolution or rebellions inside the ranks. And the leader needs to show strength. So they have to. It's more one of those, like, it's the political reality of Vandal life is you attack the Vandal, they have to respond if they still have ships. They have to keep going until they're completely decimated or a new leader is chosen. And even then, the new leader still needs to show that they can kick the hell out of the people who attack them. That's why they fight amongst each other all the time. So, in the grand sense, in the grand narrative of the universe, yeah, it makes sense. It works. It's easy to follow. You can easily see that, like, the Vandal the Shattered Blade are stealing Vandal stuff, which is causing the Vandal to start to come into the system, and they're coming in greater and greater numbers, and the People's Alliance are trying to regulate it, but they do not have the people, and Intersec is being brought in as sort of a stopgap. But Intersec itself is part of the UEE. It's really it's basically a private military company run by the UEE government.
That's always good.
Not officially. So it's sort of like it's the Blackwater, or I guess is the one not Blackwater. I think it's Blackwater, whatever that mercenary company was in the early 2000s. But totally nice. And I think that's the biggest death is the biggest problem that CIG currently has is that there are legitimately good guys and bad guys. There is no like gray area, which is what CIG's writers have talked about for years, that they want to kind of strike a balance, is sort of not all good people are intentionally good and not all bad people are all bad, but they just don't seem to either, again, have the resources or the ability to do so. So like they've simplified the narrative, which is fine for an alpha. Now on the other side, we've got Recco Battaglia coming in, and her missions seem to be a little bit more narrative. There's a little bit more of a story between her different mission type cycles.
Even these kind of like throwaway ones we're getting in 4.9.
Yeah, a lot of the throwaway ones are just, the sort of repeatable ones. But I know she has I don't think they've added them yet, have they?
No, she's got like a storyline that's coming later, but
yeah, that one is that's coming later is the ones that we're getting right now are sort of an example of what CIG called their system stories, where you have a mission giver or a location that will give you missions that will specifically focus on one system, which is separate from the main story missions that CIG wants to do. So you can think of it as in terms of like the main story of the Alpha branch is the Vanduul's rise in the eastern part of the Empire, which is where Nyx and Castra and Pyro and Stanton and Terra are. Because up to this point, it's always been a Western issue. It's been Saul, Davian.
Were the Vanduul westernizing us, dude?
Vega. The Vanduul are, because we know that one of the borders between East and West is Virgil, and Virgil fell. And so like one of the connecting systems to Nyx is Virgil. Virgil's sort of like the gateway to the East, as it were, or was before it fell. So in the grand narrative of things is the Vanduul of Alpha, Star Citizen Alpha branch is the Vanduul are showing up in places they're not supposed to be, and that's causing stresses and other problems that are happening. So overall, I feel like that's probably going to go forward, and that has a lot to do with resources. They have a ton of Vanduul models, ships, infantry units, probably there's varying different types of units, probably different types of weapons that the Vanduul use, different behaviors. All that stuff is modeled in. They already have it. They know it works because it's in Squadron. So it's a matter of porting those over to Star Citizen and making them work, but they don't want to do it until Squadron's out. So I think that's the easiest story to tell, is sort of Vanduul's interaction with the eastern part of the UAE. Overall, okay. But individually, we still don't really have the sort of stories that, like last year, really did well, like Dr. Yorit's story, because you could actually follow Dr. Yorit's descent into madness, as it were, as he became convinced that the only way to make humanity survive is to hybridize humanity with Vanduul DNA using regen. I did an entire video on it. It's like that sort of really cool story of ASD and then Dr. Yorit is sort of doesn't exist anymore. I think it's because it requires too many resources. So.
That's just sad, because I mean, it's like what you're saying with the Vanduul, and going back to this idea that like CIG has their bad guys. Obviously, the Vanduul are big bad guys. Holy crap, they're like picture perfect, made to be poster children of bad folks. But wouldn't it be nice to like have factions that work with the Vanduul and even better? What?
Go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, don't get me started on the on what I would prefer is you being able to side with groups like the Nine Tails, Xenothreat, the Shattered Blade, because that is more of a sandbox storytelling where you allow players to suffer the consequences of deciding to join these groups, to show that, hey, it's not socially acceptable to be a space racist or to actively antagonize an entire group of entire species that is trying to wipe out humanity, or to just randomly start killing civilians because you have some beef with Crusader for whatever reason. Like the idea that actions have consequences, which is one of the earliest sort of motivating design features of Star Citizen back in the earliest of days. I'd love to see those come back. And I don't believe that they are gone. I just think that they're hibernating until they get enough resources or enough push to actually kind of like with the bug problems, where now finally they're moving resources over to these problems that players have been talking about for literally years to solve these issues. It'll probably take some time before they actually get the push to actually get the resources to give them the new reputation system and more focus on the sort of the sandbox elements of the story and that sort of thing. But yeah.
So you don't believe that they are changing to push people more into an on the rails format? It feels more temporary for you. Like, do you think at some point people will be able to team up with Shatterblade or the Moraine group to wreak havoc in Nyx?
Maybe if they survive Alpha. Like, I don't think Xenothreat, for instance, will survive Alpha. I think Xenothreat will become a dead group by 1.0. And there maybe Shattered Blade or Moraine may have similar effects, where like these are just sort of them playing with what they have now and giving their designers stuff to design for Star Citizen. You know, like, oh, this unique faction outfit, so they get better at using the resources they have available. Because if you notice, a lot of the faction armors are just other armors that have been modified. So they're just taking armor that already exists in the game, then modifying them with different bits. And the better they get at it, the faster they can make them. Like Xenothreat is the simplest version. A lot of it is just armor with paint on it, versus the Shattered Blade, which has like bones strapped to them. And then there's I think they're the Moraine. I don't know who's in Rockbreaker. But they're getting crazy with the Rockbreaker because I think they're using Esperanto. I think they're speaking in Esperanto through a vocoder.
What's Esperanto?
So when it's a conlang, a constructed language made by a bunch of Europeans as an attempt to create a language that would be a universal language without any ties to a specific culture. So it's like got bits of Spanish and English and French and German combined together and trying to be simplified. It was made in like the 60s and 70s, but a couple of people got really into it and have continued to promote it, even though it doesn't really have a lot. It's a great language to use because it sounds vaguely in a science fiction universe, because it sounds vaguely like a language, because it is, but it's not a language that anyone has heard outside of a bunch of language nerds.
That's an awesome, dude. That is an awesome detail. And to be quite honest, it's kind of funny because it just sounds to me like you're trying to trick me into learning every language so that I can just speak this this one with all the parts.
Well, it's a theory, but I don't know Esperanto myself, but I picked up a couple of words that are said. I'm like, I think that's Esperanto. And there are other things like that you can use. Like I know they do this a lot in Japanese anime, where if they want a vaguely fantasy sounding like language, they'll use what is it called? Oh, it's a Northern Spanish language, which isn't Spanish. It's completely it's like an isolate. It's done because the Basque they use Basque language, which is itself a completely foreign sounding language. It doesn't sound anything like any European languages because it's not. It's sort of its own little unique thing. So you could even pull out Basque if they wanted to. It would be interesting.
Yeah,
those are the little details that are added to Star Citizen that go, there are writers here. There are mission designers, like writers, developers, like the people working in closely with Elliot's team. I'm sure that the designers themselves who are pulling these little details out, because these are the little things you can do and put into a game without having to have some major narrative import, which actually makes the game feel different. It makes each factions unique. So, but yes, I do hope that if they do survive, that you players will be able to play with those different factions and have a limited storyline with them. But also the consequences of, if you're joining Xenothreat, you're probably not going to be welcomed in places where the UEE is. Which will limit your travel. And I think that's one of the reasons why CIG seems to be hesitant to do that now, because all it takes is somebody not paying attention and being like, well, these guys pay a lot, and then getting mad about being shot at when they get out of the jump point in Stanton and be like, this is some weird bug. And it's like, no, dude, you packed the wrong horse. And I think they're concerned that they don't have the established experience, the first hour of gameplay, as Benoit said, to really not just give you the systems, but also the universe you're in, so that they can understand more like, oh, there are consequences to my actions, these are the decisions. And it's something that CIG has gone back many, many years to talk about. And it makes sense. It made sense to do a lot of these reputation issues, like these negative reputation things, when there were 100 systems. It's a lot harder to do it with 5 systems, because having the wrong decision now locks you out of, 3/5 of the entire game experience. That's a hell of a reduction in gameplay that needs to be handled properly by CIG.
I really hate to connect dots that maybe aren't there, but that does sound like another problem that could be solved by Starchitect and their ability to put a bunch of missions at each point of interest on these planets. You know, instead of getting locked out of 2 planets and losing all of the content in the system, the other 2 planets in the system still give you like 40 hours worth of missions.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't think I think it's connected in the sense that, as Jared likes to say, if we've talked about it, they've talked about it. And I guarantee you they know that. That's probably one of the reasons why Starchitect is there. Is I think even when they mentioned Starchitect, is they wanted to increase the volume of content. And that's what Starchitect is for, is to increase the volume in a local area so they don't have to travel from Hurston to Crusader to do a mission, because you can just do missions around Hurston and experience everything around Hurston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Continuing on that same line of conversation about like the factions that are coming in and stuff. How about this is a little bit premature since we're just now getting our first new version of a mission giver coming in. I'm assuming though you've seen kind of the leaks about what her mission will look like. And you've gotten some idea of where they're headed with mocap and voice acting and just a general way they're dropping people into the game, like these people who are talking to us over camera, for instance, or Wicklow, the ever so loved Wicklow. Does it feel like the characters and stories coming into this game are interesting from an MMO aspect to you, or even from a looter shooter aspect? I know this is not the same, but a lot of people would play it similarly, where they might go into Destiny, find a mission giver, take the stuff that mission giver wants, and then go out and run some missions with friends and bring it back. Do you feel like they're building up something that interests the people who are looking for that kind of experience?
I think so. I think there is a learning curve they're going to have to run through. There's a learning process they're going to have to go through. And because no 2 games are the same. And they're trying to, I think with what we're seeing with Reco is a experiment to see if what they originally pitched as mission givers would still work. Because for those who don't know, we have known for years, because of the leak in 2016, that every one of the mission givers that they had planned by 2016 not only had mocap, but it had mission dialogue. Full-blown 1 to, or I think it was like 3 to 7 missions per mission giver in just Stanton. And there were like 8 mission givers at that time. With full storylines that would tie in with each other. So one mission giver would send you to another mission giver and so on and so forth. And in that leak, they had all of the audio was for those mission givers was leaked. So for a while, the wiki actually had recorded all of the path of what the mission givers were supposed to do, because we knew what missions were. And so the way that it's being designed right now with Reco is that old system, which is do a main mission with her first to get her reputation up. Then the random missions we're doing now, she'll give you those missions to work on her reputation. And then you get chapter 2 of her main story mission. And then you have to do, that unlocks new missions, which are random, or you can do the old missions, but you have to keep your reputation up. Then you get to chapter 3. And the reputations were sort of stages upon which she would trust you, give you more missions, and also give you more things. Like right now, Recapitalia, I think you get a ship at the end of her rep grind. The goal is that there is going to be signposts with missions you actually have to do, which are unique to her, in order to jump up those step ladders. And I have never seen a game do something like this. Usually it's go do this mission for me and then come back and we'll do another mission. There's usually not like narrative and then grind missions and then narrative and then grind missions. I've seen that before with some like single player games, but you don't really usually see that with multiplayer games. At least I haven't.
Really, in MMOs, no?
Well, usually with MMOs, it's all grind. It's like the missions themselves are the grind to get to the end point. But it's like each mission is part of a story point along the line. So there might be a chain of like 12 missions or 12 quests, and then you reach those 12 quests, you're done. And there are some like things you can do. Those would be like bounty boards or random jobs you can pick up, which were not connected to the mission giver or lightly connected to the mission giver. Not a combination of the two, where like you have a quest and then you have random grind jobs and then a quest and then random grind jobs. Maybe that was happening in Destiny. It's been a while since I played Destiny, so I don't remember. I remember Destiny being effectively just like, go do this mission. And it was usually a long stuff.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say that games don't give rewards for completing mission chains. What I was saying is the style of having mission grind. I don't think I've seen that attempted. So that's an interesting change to the formula, because they can add as much grind as they want to between the two signposts of the main missions to increase the difficulty or reduce them to decrease the difficulty. It allows them for easy, I won't say in the future. As in terms of like, will it work? I think it will, but it really depends on how that functions in terms of a long-term thing. Because the genius thing about it is that they can just keep adding missions at the end. There's only 3 missions for Recco right now, but they could have infinite. They just have to come up with new ideas and then just add them in there, as long as there's not like a definitive endpoint.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how reputation adds into that. I also remember back when we used to run missions for the givers, like Tisha, you would actually go and run that mission, and then the game itself or another mission giver would create an opposing criminal-focused mission to kind of counteract what you were doing. I think that would be like a system that could reliably do that for at least certain types of conflicts in certain areas would be really, really cool for people who want to pursue the unlawful type of stuff, but are maybe not sure how to do that in a sandbox environment.
Yeah, allowing for a baby's first criminal gameplay loop to
handhold you into crime.
Yeah.
Let's see. I had another. I just completely lost my flow there. So 4.10 is actually introducing instancing, since we're still talking about kind of how the game is actively changing right now. I do want to touch on instancing a little bit. It's going to be an Evocati probably by the time this goes live, maybe not. And it's a very debated topic. From your perspective, do you think that it's going to have a major change on the game immediately? Or do you think they're still not sure exactly how they're going to apply it?
I think people have overblown instancing. I think a lot of folks take a look at instancing and then slippery slope themselves into panic attacks. Instancing is there for the theme parks. It's there for the set things that CIG has created, like the Rock Breakers, the TSGs, the Siege of Orsons. Not really for like the Hathors. It's there for the big tent pole or the ASD facilities, that kind of thing. It's there to lock people out so that CIG can balance the experiences to the party size that they want. That way they can control the outcome as well as improve performance. So I don't think this is going to be one of those things that's a game changer. I do think it will improve the problems that we talked about at the beginning, those fundamental issues that are the peaks and valleys that are causing peaks and valleys of Star Citizen. It'll probably help smooth out a little bit more, but I don't see it as this sort of, oh no, now everything's going to be instanced and there's not going to be PvP. It's like that's A, too much work on CFG's part, and B, doesn't seem to be the direction they want to go.
There is definitely a clear fear that people think this is headed back towards the original idea of Star Citizen, which, funny enough, people might not know, was a completely instanced 100% segmented game. It was not meant to be this large scale, everybody is flying through the same spaces running into each other kind of thing. And I agree with you. I don't think we're ever going to go back to that. I think the idea of flying out into space in this game will always be flying out into space, and you're not going to be jumping into another instance before you go to a planet. But there's also the risk that they do these theme parks and they get all these conflicts into instance locations, and then the game is kind of lacking of more just sort of natural central places for people to create conflict and run into. I think the biggest example anybody would point to would be one that you covered quite extensively. The Jumptown Wars was probably the best example of Star Citizen ever. And folks are still waiting for that to kind of naturally come back. And I think worried that instancing is another hit towards the possibilities of that.
I don't think that's going to be a problem. I really don't think that instancing will kill the sandbox. I do think that CIG does need to focus on the sandbox because they've been focusing heavily on the theme park. But I don't think that the instancing itself is being used specifically to strip the sandbox elements away. I'd love to see another Jumptown, but that Jumptown needs a bunch of systems like dynamic economy. It needs things like reputation systems. It needs incentives, things for you to do that CIG just doesn't have yet. They keep trying to do it with artificial Jumptown events like they've done in the past, but it just doesn't really work unless it's random, unless it's by chance, by accident, like the original Jumptown was, where everyone discovers it, and by the time everyone discovers it, it's like a gold rush, and then because it's discovered, it clears out and then disappears and then shows up somewhere else. So that dynamic emergent gameplay which is like part and parcel with Sandbox, requires the sandbox to exist, and CIG still hasn't built the sandbox. They don't have the dynamic economy system. They don't have the reputation systems. They don't have the stuff that they need in order to allow for that emergent gameplay to happen, which is why they're focusing on theme park and instancing, because it allows them to continue to do that stuff because they already have the tools and technology and know how to do that. But I don't think it's the end of the sandbox. I just think that CIG definitely does need to start focusing on that sandbox as they have with crafting. It's just a matter of expanding out from that.
Yeah, the crafting, the mining, and the the crafting, the mining, and what else?
Base building and refining and salvaging. All those sorts of things.
Yeah, just slipped my head. I had an example of something that was being worked on, but the things that have been adding in these theme parks, do you feel like they do meet the need? Are they actually entertaining and doing what you would expect from a theme park? Because I mean, they should at least be doing that well if that's what they're focusing on.
Yeah, it's doing fine when they work.
Cool.
The problem with theme parks events is that they can be really fun. Going on a roller coaster is fun. You can go on that same roller coaster 4 times in one day, still fun. I've been down, I used to, when I lived in California, when I was younger, various different groups I was part of would go down to LA to Disneyland before all of the Disneyland stuff became extremely expensive. And we'd go down with these groups, we'd get a group pass and go down there. I remember going down there, twice a year with the various groups. I would still go on Splash Mountain. I think it's Splash Mountain, the log ride they had there. I'd go on that as much as sometimes 4 or 5 times a day when we do go there for 2 days. Still enjoyed it, even though I knew what was going on. That's the theme park. It's like, what you're going to experience, and as long as it's fun, it's fun. The problem is that Splash Mountain can crash in the sense that it can stop working. If it stops working, nobody can use it. And if no one can use it, then you have to wait till the techs come in,
Splash
fix
Mountain,
it.
30K.
Then, when Splash Mountain 30K, you got a problem. That's the problem with theme parks, is that they can get boring if you do them too much. So you have to have a variety, and then you also have to maintain them. And CIG hasn't been maintaining. So they're fine in terms of design. It's just the maintenance. That's the problem.
Yeah.
one of the most popular things that is sort of a sandbox, but still a theme park-esque thing is the contested zones. And CIG's the loot rooms in those contested zones is still broken. It's been broken for 4 patches and they still haven't fixed it because it's just not a priority, because they've got to fix, they've been working on Lazarus and fixing some of the priorities of fixing like the behavior of the various Valakar. They've been focusing on TSG fixes. They've been focusing on trying to get the Vandal Smuggler missions, freight elevators to work. And it's these sorts of like individual issues that pop up that force them to firefight rather than to plan. And I've always been of the opinion that sandboxes are easier to maintain because once you've built the systems, they're there, and it allows the players to make the fun. You can still build theme park rides out of those sandbox elements, but it becomes easier to do.
Well, I hope they make it work, because the going to these theme park locations and then not running through them for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and them not working has been painful for people.
Yes.
And it's also built this reputation with the current state of the game that, yeah, we're getting content, we're getting this stuff that's dropped in and it's fun to do and new players are going to get entertainment out of it, but people are walking away saying, hey, as soon as it's 2 patches old, it's broken, and I'm not really interested anymore. So I do think like this is a great thing to do, because there are too many systems in Star Citizen that don't allow players to easily take agency into their own hands and have some fun with a sandbox. So yeah, theme parks are good for players who are trying to learn what this game is about. But if they're not, if they're not broken, or if they are broken, then that's just, it's like having the free fly during 4.8. It's doing more harm than good. I can't believe they pushed that one to go through during freaking DefenseCon. That was a bad idea.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of questions about CIG's planning and CIG's, I think, over-optimistic view of themselves without a critical eye. That has more to do with a lot of other things that CIG has to address.
Yeah.
Which again comes back to the conversation that Benoit was having with Jared and the roadmap roundup that they did shortly after, where it's like they seem to acknowledge that there are problems and they're trying to fix them. It's just I don't want to. I've been here before, man. I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired. It's been 14 years. I'm getting tired of this.
I don't want to dig holes no more, Grandpa. And Chris Roberts comes out and goes,
"What's too bad?" Yeah, I want to get I want to get off Mr. Bones' wild ride. I want to get off Mr. Roberts' wild ride.
Let's talk about the current goings-on of the game. We're at this interesting time in Star Citizen during the year where it's starting to emerge from its slumber. It goes to this kind of summer hibernation every year where things collapse, the game is dying, everyone gets outside and actually touches grass. Thank God. Good deal. Like, keep doing it, guys. It's good. It feels good out there. But in that period of time, because of the struggle that was 4.8 and the delays out of 4.9 maybe, and like them just trying to get the game in order, they have delayed the Foundation Festival, it seems. Usually it's in the first half of July. This year it is starting on, I think, the 29th of July, and actually kicking off at the same, no, it's 29th. I think it's 20, I don't know. But it's kicking off at the end of the month at the same time as the Ship Showdown. So this is different from normal years. Why do you think they're doing it like this?
Delay. I think they originally were planning on having Foundation Festival to happen shortly after 4.9 released. And 4.9 was supposed to release earlier. Or it was supposed to be like the beginning of July, like it usually is. I think it just 4.8 happened.
Yeah.
4.8 happened and threw all of their schedules off because they were like, oh no, back to fighting fires, because they weren't anticipating the problems. So
you think I think actually they've still insinuated they're doing a free fly for it.
I do find it weird that they're doing a Twitch drop campaign for Foundation Festival.
That's an interesting, yeah. It's not even just a Twitch drop campaign. They're also throwing in an extra benefit where if people subscribe to somebody who's streaming Star Citizen, they get something as well. And that comes off as very telling to me. What's your read on this?
Testing. It's them testing out the features. That's something that's apparently been available for other people who've used it in the past. Other game companies have. So it's just one of those tools that Twitch gives CIG in their toolbox.
I see.
And I'm guessing it's just CIG using it. The only other major tool that I can think of is, other than various timed, where it's like, you watch for 4 hours, you get this, 6 hours, you get this, 8 hours, you get that, is giving specific content creators giving only those specific content creators the drops, which I think they'll probably do for Squadron 42. Well, they'll gather a team with a PR group, which will be a mixture of Star Citizen creators and non-Star Citizen creators to practice that. But before they get Squadron 42 out, they need more practice. They've only done 2 Twitch drops, so a Foundation Festival makes sense. It is an event that is supposed to be focused around new players coming in and playing the game, so a Twitch drop makes sense to get the word out for people to be like, hey, not only can you watch, but if you subscribe to these folks, then you get more. So I think in theory, it could get more people to stream Star Citizen, because not only do you get higher view counts, because the Twitch drops will just artificially jack up everyone's view numbers, but it'll also give more incentive for people to pay that subscription so they can get a cool little trinket, especially for people who are ultimate collectors who don't have it. So
that's fair.
Yeah, I just think it's a move on CIG's part to test all the tools they have with a logical location and time. But I also don't think that it was planned. Like, this wasn't something they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this like a week ago, and they just contacted April, May of this year.
You just dropped out for a second there for some reason.
Oh, I was just saying, I guarantee you something that they probably talked with Twitch in like April or May to set up, rather than this wasn't a decision they made like yesterday or last week.
Yeah. No, that's it's probably a planned thing for sure.
And so we have the obligations. They want to keep relations with Twitch and Amazon, so it's like okay, well, we'll make it work, is what they're at. So
can I share some of the other angle? I think I do agree. Sure. I think this is obviously, it helps you keep up the regularness of it. I find this one a little bit weird because I think when was the first Twitch drop they did? That was December, right?
December. Yeah, it was 4-0, I think. Or not 4-0.
No, 4-6.
No, it was November. It was November.
Was it? Was it during IAE?
Yeah, it was just last IAE.
Okay, so that makes sense. IAE and the Defense Con makes sense because those are like big moments. And in my mind, that was them trying to draw attention to times when they thought was like a big deal for the game, a chance to bring on people for new sales, to get folks activating their accounts, and most importantly, getting the people who weren't really paying attention to come back and pay attention and see what's new, what's there. From that perspective, this feels like a really weird time to do Twitch drops for me, because the game is not bounced back, right? Cargo's not even working correctly. We don't know where it will be next week. But it's also not like a big sales time. It's like a focused on bringing in new players, but then instead of doing the new player focused stuff, they're doing drops for content creators, which feels like then they're trying to get people to pay attention to what's going on in the game rather than doing the foundation part, like the guide system teaching part. So it feels like it's almost co-opting Foundation Festival to be more of an event. And I'm assuming they'll have some kind of sale going on at the same time. I'm
sure. It'll probably be a discounted starter pack.
Yeah.
Of some kind, with some extra goodies.
And I really don't... I feel like this is not a good move. It seems like the wrong move, in my opinion. You're kind of shucking this idea of the community coming together to bring new people into the game for what feels like a promotion for streamers, especially the subscribe to a streamer and get an extra thing. It's like... like... It's almost like CIG is doing this to incentivize the streamers to start covering Star Citizen more because they haven't been over the last month or two.
It definitely feels like that. I will admit that. It definitely feels like CIG is trying to is trying to, you know, reach out and go, hey, you're off playing other games. We're still here. Come back. We've got viewers now. We've got more viewers, and now they'll subscribe to you, so they'll give you money. You know, I can see that, but I also, from a cynical perspective, but I also from knowing how these work in other games, I can see, and knowing how CIG has worked in the past, it feels a lot more, I'm not going to say innocent, but a lot more, look at these cool toys, let's use them to figure out how they work. Because remember, last time they did it, they had massive delays between earning your armor and then seeing it on the store.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they also want to like test it out to see like, hey, does this change at all? Because like, you know, there's plenty of games that will do Twitch drops 2-3 times a year.
Yeah.
As a way of promoting. It's a cheap way of getting promotions.
Oh yeah,
out there
definitely.
To get more people in there.
It just feels like the kind of thing you do after you've done a lot of updates, because you know people want to come back. Yeah. And we're just not
so
there.
I agree. It also doesn't make any sense to have like what they're giving, which is like a skin for ATLS. Like, okay, why not a skin for a starter ship, or, you know, armor for a starter player or something, you know?
Yeah, an
like
Aurora Mark II skin would be great.
Like they did with the they did with the in the past with the Foundation Festival, where like if you were doing a guide and you get a special like armor or helmet or hat or something like that. There should be multiple things going on at once. If that was the goal, if the goal is community coming together, let's celebrate the community. And there should be more things around the community itself rather than just Twitch. But I also think that as we discussed earlier, I think that this Foundation Festival is sort of just seen as a, oh God, kind of like how they said they're going to bring back Xenothreat, and then they delayed Xenothreat, and they just kind of just said, screw it, here
just
you go.
Trickled it out.
Drop kicked it on us. It's sort of we promised to do it, we did it, deal with it, and it's only going to be there for 15 days. We're done. And then, you know, everyone complained about it as how lackluster it felt, because it was lackluster. They just dropped it because they had an obligation to do so, instead of, you know, because they needed something to do while everyone was out on vacation and, you know, with their families and such.
Yeah, it feels like CIG is like, they're the owner of like a pretty nice venue in town, and for the first half of the year they were getting ready for the big party, and then the big party came and like everybody showed up. It was a huge success, just absolute chaos. But then also because it was absolute chaos, everybody kind of left with being a little bit like, oh, that was too much, I need a break. And then at the same time, CIG's waking up the next morning with their massive hangar, where just kind of like canceling stuff. It's like inviting their friend over for breakfast. Yeah, I got a couch you can lay on here, sure, whatever. Like, this whole summer has just been like the extra bits of, we're keeping things together while we recover from the big party. Because you're right, like Xenothreat came and just went. The Foundation Festival is just kind of like casually delayed, coming at the same time as Ship Showdown. The stuff's getting delayed out of 4.9. And it's interesting to see
410, that. The calling it 410 is also weird, because it's not 410. It's 49.1.
Right.
You know? But they want to call it 410 so they can be like, we're doing more patches, you know, like they did last year.
And they can't
possibly
possibly
it was all the same branch, but they just called it something different to make people less mad, because they knew in the past that when you actually do what they did before, you have like an entire year with just the same patch. People go, but you didn't release a new patch. It's like, yes, they did. They just didn't call it a new patch. If they called it a new patch, people wouldn't have complained.
You remember, or not remember, but imagine imagine if they just switched it and went like, okay, 5.0 is coming out in August. It just didn't have any explanation for it. Like, we're done with 4.9's over. We're going to 5.0. And everyone's like, okay, what's happening?
Nothing.
Instancing?
Yeah, instancing. That's our big thing now. I don't think they'd pull, like, I'm not that cynical to think that they do that. I think CIG is going to stick with 1.0,
But it's just funny because I see a lot of conversation coming out about like, oh, is 5.0 coming out this year? Like, what is 5.0 going to be? I don't think CIG's even thinking about a 5.0.
No. There's no such thing as 5.0. They're thinking about beta and release. It's like we're going to go from alpha to live. I wish CIG would take some time and do a beta, spend about 6 months to a year just in a beta stage where they're like, yeah, it's basically done, but we might wipe here and there and then go to 1.0. But I think there might be a pressure on them to just keep going. Like, 1.0 is ready, let's go.
And then 1.0 is beta.
That's what happened with Elite. That's what happened to Elite. Elite was in beta, like its final beta form with everything in the game for like a month. And then they released it, and within days of the release, a bunch of people were exploiting the system and made trillions of credits. They were just like trillionaires overnight. Oh. So like money didn't mean anything, which is why they had to start doing things like engineering and other stuff like that to try to siphon away people's credits and do something that isn't credit based. So yeah, it's a problem of not testing your system before. Now it's in a better place, but
Sounds like good fun. All right, let's talk about something fun here. Let's talk about the stuff that you are excited for the final segment of this year. First of all, actually, you got to answer. Do you think that they're going to get Planet Tech V5 in? And then you can tell us what you're most excited for.
Oh, what planets are going to get V5?
No. If you think V5's coming in, it'll obviously just be Nyx 1. But then what else besides that you are looking forward to?
Oh, I mean, I'm looking forward to the entire system. Like, Nyx 2 is far more interesting than Nyx 1. Despite what people want Nyx 1 because it's beautiful and they want to build bases. And we all know that Star Architect and base building is connected to the new Genesis tech. So the Nyx 1 is going to be like the proving ground for that. But Nyx 2, in my mind, is far more interesting because it's our first Venusian planet. It's our first smog world. And we haven't had one. And for those of you who don't know, in the lore of Star Citizen, at least up to now, smog worlds are unterraformable. So, like, Venus isn't terraformed. So, as a result, and no one knows how to do it. Like, they've attempted many times in different places, but they always fail, including the Xi'an have tried to and failed. So, it would be this planet of incredible pressure, incredible temperatures, incredible like atmospheric problems that you would have to solve to go on. I feel like that's a lot more interesting location. Kind of like the rad storms of what were they called? Lazarus. I remember we tried to find the location and got caught into a rad storm in PTU. And I think it was a Polaris or some large ship, we actually crashed, and we had to daisy chain like we were survivors from an Arctic expedition to move, and we'd have to like pick our fellows up that would overdose. We'd find random vehicles that people had attempted to drive in, and we'd be able to use those as shelter for a moment, and then go out, to like eat and drink and like cool down a little bit. And eventually we got rescued by a friend, another member of the group who was able to like get a little closer. And that whole experience was amazing when I had that. And I'm like, Nyx 2, like that could be Nyx 2. It's just like you just randomly hit pockets where your ship is just gonna die, and now you have to survive on Nyx 2 and you can get rescued and stuff like that. So I'm interested in that. Do I think it's gonna come this year? Yes, I actually do think that Nyx 2 and Nyx 3 will come this year.
Really?
And I think I said it yes. Because I think that Nyx 2 and Nyx 3 will probably be added towards the end. Nyx 3 is easy. It's just Pyro 5 or Pyro 4, whichever one's the gas giant. Crusader, it's the same thing. It's just an ice giant. So it's just going to be cold.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
But it's going to use the same technology. So it's not really as interactive as Nyx 2 will be. And Nyx 2 I think will be the hardest one to do, but they already kind of have that technology. So it's just a matter of, and they don't have to make it pretty because it's got to be kind of disgusting. So
Overall, what do you think Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, what do you think the response would be if they dropped Nix 1, Nix 2, and Nix 3 in, but only Nix 1 had like locations and things to do?
If they had all three and only Nix 1 and Nix 2 had places to go?
Only Nix 1, like because they keep talking about Nix 1 getting Starchitect and stuff. What if we get Nix 2 and there are just like no missions, no points of interest and stuff like that?
I think it'll be fine at first. I mean, there'll probably be if they can do Starchitect, because it's generated, right? It's randomly generated. So if they can do Nix 1, then I think they can do with Starchitect. I think they can do at least some stuff with Nix 2. But I also don't think that Nix 2 will come in until after Nix 1's done. Like they'll do Nix 1 in, my guess is September or November. Probably more September, and then November or December will be the like rest of the system put into place.
All right, I hope it goes that way, dude, because I'm sitting here thinking they're gonna try and just drop whatever they have in November, and then hope it goes well.
Well, we know that, like for instance, they're shooting for suit lockers to work in 4.11 in September. Starchitect is looking at like it's September. And so that means Genesis would have to be in September. And once you have the system in, Nix 1 is the hardest one to do. The Nix 2 wouldn't be that difficult to do. I do think that we might see a tech preview of Castra at the end of the year, just so Chris can be like, technically we got 3 systems now, or 4 systems now. I said at the very beginning of the year on this podcast that you and I disagree that Casper's going to be in the game, be put in the game, but because you and I both agree with the same problem, which is they still have so much things to fill out with Nix. They haven't done so, and so they have to focus on Nix. And I'm like, of course they need. That's exactly what they need to do, which is why they'll do Castra, so that they can just do new shiny again.
Pain.
But now, with looking at how much time we have left, it's clear that we probably won't see it. But we may see it in a sort of a, hey, here you go kind of way.
Watch them just show us like the jump point or something, and being like, it's there, it's there. You just haven't discovered the technology to get through it.
The Casper Sandcastle. That's what we'll get.
Can I put that down?
Playground.
Can I put that down as your prediction, by the way, for this episode?
Oh yeah, I have to do a prediction for this episode.
You got to.
No, so no, I'm not going to put the Castra in there because I've been that's one of those that was like, CIG will be ambitious about it. My prediction that I can almost guarantee will happen is we will get some form of refining in testing before the end of the year. Maybe not released, but testing.
All right. Can I tell you what your previous prediction was?
Sure.
All right. This one's from June. Actually, I can go all the way back to your April ones too if you're interested. You want to relive it all?
I'm sure I'm pretty wrong on all of them.
The best hits. The April prediction was the Invictus Week Zeus Titan suit being released.
Which I was wrong about, yeah.
And the Origin 200i incoming.
Okay, sort of right.
Sort of,
that it was Origin.
Yeah, the M80.
But it was the M80.
Not bad, not bad.
So I was barking in the right direction.
Yeah.
I still think the 200i is on the table, especially now that they have Origin.
And then I also have Fast Terrapin written down. I don't know. I don't know if that's what you thought the 200i was going to be, or if I just.
Yeah, that's what I thought the 200i was going to be. Was like a Fast Terrapin.
Okay.
It's supposed to be like an observation chip.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the 200i is going to be on the table once they actually have scanning in the game. And that was one of the reasons why I said the 200i is because like there's been a lot of indications that scanning is coming in soon. And now recently it's like, nope. Still, nope. No, we have no indication. We're not going to tell you when scanning's coming in.
But I mean, it's like kind of indication because they are updating scanning.
They've been updating scanning this entire year.
Yeah.
Like every patch has had some change to scanning, but they haven't ever, even in the monthly reports, been like, the new scanning update is going well. Like, I haven't seen shit for months.
Is it actually happening? Yeah, dude, that's like hacking. They mentioned hacking in one monthly report this year, and they were like, it's going into testing for implementation. And I'm like, okay, well, what has happened since then to it?
I have a feeling it's Chris. I feel like Chris is getting a hold of it and being like, no. To be fair, I think the hacking initially Chris approved of, and then people saw the preview of it, and Chris was so visceral with the response of how we all hated it that he's like, okay, maybe we should rethink hacking. For those who don't know, it was Pac-Man. The original hacking minigame was playing a game of Pac-Man. Just reskinned.
Don't look at that. I have the literal, for anybody who is currently watching, actually not even on the normal podcast will you guys be able to see this, but on the live stream, if you are here, I can show you exactly what this looked like. It would basically be a little terminal you plugged into a computer, and then it would pop up like this, sort of exactly like you said, like a Pac-Man look. It was kind of like Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, and you just have to move across this like almost like digital arena in a way, like a little maze, to connect one circuit to another with little like problems in between. And it never made it past the concept or previous stage, but they talked about it quite a bit in monthly reports and stuff, and then it just disappeared, and they changed it to a format of like injecting code.
Yeah, it's changed the format a couple of times, and I think a lot of folks were rightfully critiquing it, myself included, that it just felt too simple. I remember I made the suggestion is like, you're ripping off Cyberpunk everywhere else. Just do cyber decks. Cyber decks are cool. Everyone loves cyber decks. You just have different programs for different solutions. You just color code them. Like this red cyber deck deals with this red cyber deck, this red problem, and so on and so forth. As long as you just did, they weren't doing it wrong by simplifying it. The problem was the like drawing comparisons to every other hacking minigame that exists, which nobody likes. Mm-hmm. Nobody likes hacking minigames in video games. They all think that they're either too simplistic, too hard, or just too weird.
I did have fun with BioShock, not gonna lie, which I think was kind of what they were doing here, just drawing a path basically. BioShock like relied on the idea that water was flooding the circuit, which was quite fitting. And I like how Star Wars Outlaws did theirs. Theirs is pattern recognition. So you get a haptic feedback, you get something visual, and you get a sound like beat that you can listen to, and then you just have to hit the beat. I like it. It's
I never got to that in Star Wars Outlaws. Oh, I think I do remember doing that in Star Wars Outlaws. Once you get a hold of it, it's pretty good. But that's also like a game that's about like
breaking into places,
the right beats.
Yeah,
and we'll see how it works with hacking. But yeah, that's one of those problems where it's just like it's becoming harder and harder to judge CIG, because in the past they were at least consistent. Now they're becoming more erratic, which is one of the problems that I think it's being illustrated by these sorts of swinging priorities that we've seen. Is that in the past, like you and I could have taken a look at the monthly report and going, well, they're working on this. And usually when they work on this, we'll at least have an announcement of something within 6 months of this on a monthly report. And then as they start talking about it more, you can go, okay, generally speaking, they're working on it. More people are talking about it. But as you said, they're clamping down on people talking. So there's less forward facing from the developers. They're the only avenue of getting any kind of new information is just monthly reports, because Inside Star Citizen is just patch reports.
Oh, don't get me started on Inside Star Citizen.
And Star Citizen Live sometimes happens, but they rarely do confirmations on Star Citizen Live, other than like whatever the gameplay is, whatever the team is that's focusing on stuff, and that's usually like more than 6 months out. Though sometimes like the super heavy suit was 6 months from that. But that's the problem, is that because we have less and less communication avenues, it becomes harder and harder to figure out what CIG is doing, which makes it worse in terms of perspective from players who are like, everything is broken. What are you fixing, CIG? And CIG is going, but new ship. And it's like, okay, So fuck you. That's sort of the visceral response to that experience. To it feels like you're being sold to rather than being talked to.
Yeah. That's something that's been shifting slowly over time, and I'm not sure how much people have been catching on to my own changing of the way that I'm covering it, but I was always of the mindset that once server meshing hit, we reached this point where we're no longer in a car flying down a hill without brakes. Like, I saw that as the point at which they could take a step back and say, we have reached a technical milestone. Now we need to consider the best way forward to create this game while people are playing it. And like, their marketing shifted to reflect that so strongly with the trailers, with the way that they were scheduling free flies, starting Twitch drops. Like, all these things told us that they had kind of reconsidered the idea of Star Citizen and wanted to move forward with that, but the development hasn't matched it. So now we're at this point where, like you're saying, we don't have as much visibility. We sit here going, what's coming next, CIG? Part of understanding this game is understanding what to expect, what to look forward to, what are you guys actively working on that we should be getting ready to test. And that just does not happen as much. And I've tried to shift my own way of covering the game to match that. I know reputations take a while to change as well, but I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of people are at a state where they recognize that CIG is not so much here to share the development of a game anymore as they are just to like fund it and try to get it done. And the former is what kept a lot of people involved. And I think that's part of why people are taking a step back.
Yeah. No, it's for the longest time you'd hear people say Star Citizen isn't an open development, and you'd scoff at them because it's like, some dude could wake up on a Saturday morning, and often did, and would just start posting about what they were working on because they just finished a big coding thing, and they're like, let's talk about it because I want to talk about it because I just spent 6 months of my life working on this damn thing. I want people to know what it's like. And that was great. It was awesome. You could get so much information from that, and sometimes it was too much information. It was just this fire hose of information that was coming out from them. And over time, it's trickled down to the point where it feels less and less like a cooperative open development and more like a traditional corporate experience, like an experience you would have with an EA or a Ubisoft or a Microsoft or a Sony, where they're talking at you rather than with you. I think that's really what soured a lot of folks. There's a lot of other things that are in there, but that doesn't help the problems that they already are experiencing, especially when you're in the summer, and CIG has never met a summer they didn't want to waste. That is what's the old joke about hot girl summer? Like, hot mess summer, I guess would be for Star Citizen. Every summer is hot mess summer with Star Citizen. Last year was the exception that proved the rule that CIG has no idea what to do when half the developers decide to take vacation because it's June, it's after Invictus, the lack of communication, the lack of engagement, the corporatization of everything, where the only time they want to talk to us is when they want to sell something. It feels abusive at times, even if it's just CIG's doing what they can to try to fix it. So, yeah, I understand why people are more negative about it, and why it's not necessarily like the end of the world, but it is definitely something that's like, okay, well, they're gonna have to start treating CIG like Bethesda or like CD Projekt Red, where it's like,
I wish.
Not gonna tell you anything.
I mean, if they had the track record of CG Projekt Red, I wouldn't need to be told anything. I just trust that they're gonna put something interesting out there. But yeah, I get what you mean, communication-wise. Yeah.
Like CD Projekt Red isn't gonna tell shit until Cyberpunk 2 comes out, or Witcher, was it 4 comes out. You have to go to like a press event, and you'll have to be like a high-level member, or you have to be best friends with the like mission designer to get any kind of information out of CD Projekt Red. Or you have to be with Bethesda, you have to be Asha Sharma, like taking a SWAT battering ram and beating down the front door of Todd's office and being like, get to work.
You have to personally hold Todd down and say, you need to talk about your stuff.
Yeah, you need to stand behind Todd as he's typing out a blog post with a gun pointed to the back of his head and be like, do your job.
They'll be like, I told you it's 16 times the detail. Come on. What else is there?
And unfortunately, none of us have that access. So with Star Citizen, so it can get frustrating. So if you're wondering why a lot of content creators feel more negative, it's because a lot of our easy access to information has basically disappeared and has been replaced with, in some cases, really smug responses by CIG. Really like, F you and why are you being so, like, we're not going to go to Bar Citizens anymore if this is where you act. And it's like, partially,
well, I mean, people shouldn't be recording folks.
No, but at the same time, it's like, I understand the direction why a lot of people went, well, screw you, you're not telling us anything anyways. So, and it's because CIG is finding out this is what developers deal with when they're not in the sort of the normal development space. If you have a hardcore fan base, it's like they will give them access. They'll do their best to try to get everything out of you.
Yeah, we hardcore.
And it's a problem. It's that shift. That shift from open development to standard corporate development.
Yeah.
That is causing issues.
And I just want to clarify, because I can already see the comments coming. Historian is not saying that CIG is giving these responses to content creators privately. He's talking about the same stuff everybody is seeing, which is less inside Star Citizens, less Star Citizen lives, not as much. I think they've been like, they've done, some of the devs have been good at being on Spectrum and answering stuff, but in general, just like less information across the board, which, you know, is an entitlement that people feel they have, partially because CIG said that they're going to take $20 a month subscriptions for years and say that those were going towards the production of shows that shared what was going on with development, and those shows have only been disappearing and becoming less and less over years. That's one side of it. The other side is just that, like, when you have a game that's broken and not fully featured, the excitement of that is seeing what full features are coming next. That's why games that are in development oftentimes can die, because if you don't have something that's playable for people to look forward to, they're not going to keep being interested. That's why a lot of Kickstarters die. That's why Ashes of Creation was dying. And it is just a matter of, they had a norm for, like, I want to say 9 to 10 years. They were doing things pretty much the same way in terms of sharing information. And since 2025, that's really disappeared. And not just content creators. I think that's just affected everyone across the board.
Well, the content creator perspective is, like, there used to be so much information that you required a content creator to really comb through the information, pull the information out to talk about it. You know, you needed a Space Tomato, you needed a Board Gamer, a Salty Mike to do like a weekly recap of the information, because it's just like there's so much from so many different angles that it's important to discuss it. And CIG has basically stopped that. They turned that hose off, and they turned it off slowly over the course of 2 years. And that problem with content creators, and the reason why you'll see content creators step away or stop covering Star Citizen or get more negative about Star Citizen, is the same reason why people are getting mad about not being able to get talked to the way they've been talked to in the past by CIG. It's just sort of a rock hitting the puddle, hitting a puddle and causing a wave to pump function to pull out. A butterfly flaps its wings and a tornado happens in China. Yeah, like it's a butterfly effect. It's just, once you have that cascading effect, it'll happen. It'll hit a lot more people than you realize. And trying to tie this back to the conversation about this year is that's made this year worse. I think it's made this year worse overall for the community, where even people who in the past I think would have stood up for CIG and been like, wait, like, come on, calm down. Like, they talk with us. This is what they've said in the past. I think even people who are usually ardent defenders of CIG would be like, yeah, like, they deserve this one for like, there's nothing I can say. So, yeah. Again, it's been 14 years. I'm tired. I'm just tired. I don't like this, Grandpa.
Bring back Harambe. Man. Your other predictions, though, I didn't get to go through them. Your June predictions, you said instancing will be in. Nix 1 in 4.10, and possibly the entire system, an item recovery 1.0, and another refining or refueling ship by end of year.
Yeah, I think I'd stick with all of those. The 410 thing was obviously when 410 was September, so before CIG changed the rules.
Okay, so I'll change that one for you. The next one in September. Yeah. We'll give you a little cheat code there. You still thinking item recovery 1.0 and another refining or refueling ship?
I think they'll do some sort of like mini or medium refining refueling ship, because they'll have hopefully the Expanse, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Or they may have something else.
Well, that works out.
It's still one of those big things that's coming out with the Galaxy. Since the Galaxy's definitely coming out in November, it's got to be something by November.
Well, it makes sense with your new refining and testing by end of year prediction. So we'll see. I've got a good amount of stuff to hold you to the coals with now. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Love the fodder. All right, man. Thank you so much. I like
being bold in my predictions.
Yeah, well, I need it, dude.
Even if I'm wrong, I love to be bold in my predictions.
Gotta give the people something to gnash teeth at.
I gotta give you the fodder so people down below in the comments can say how wrong I am. Please,
exactly.
Please just go on and on in the comments about how wrong I am. I'm not trying to engagement farm or anything like that.
It's not bait at all. Well, before we go, because I haven't said it yet this podcast, and I can't go a podcast without saying it, Halo. Have you played it yet?
Yeah. I played a little bit of it. I haven't played all of it because I do want to play it with you or Loken or both of you at some point. It's good. It feels like a cross between Halo 1 and Halo 2. A little bit of Halo 3. It's like a medley of all of the different Halos smashed together.
That sounds awesome.
But the cutscenes feel like a fan-made remake of the original Halo game. And I don't think that's a good thing.
Oh no.
I feel like fans would have done better job at remaking it than the devs have. It's not awful, but it feels almost uncanny valley. Like, to give you an example, the Pillar of Autumn level, when you're escaping the Pillar of Autumn, and you get into the escape pod, you remember how, like, when it may have been a glitch on my part. Remember how, like, when the escape pod launched, you would see it launch out of the tube and then go towards the Halo ring?
Yeah.
In the first game, they do not show the launch. They just show you in the ship, and then it cuts to you already having launched with a couple of other, like there's more spacescapes. You're actually seeing like fighters flying around and shooting at each other, and one of the pods gets exploded. And then it cuts to the perspective of the pod, but instead of being like on the Halo ring or in the Halo ring, you're approaching the Halo ring from a distance. So it's like you're a ship flying towards the ring rather than and suddenly land, like trying to land on the ring quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense. So how did the Pillar of Autumn crash there if it was on the other side of the gas giant that Halo is orbiting?
Yeah.
How did it end up crashing on Halo? Like the perspective is off. It just
because you as you're crashing, so is the Autumn.
Yeah, that's like, if you remember, it's like he's taking it in manually.
Yeah.
You know, like what's going on? Oh, he's taking it manually. Like I told him not to do what Cortana said, basically says, because he intentionally is crashing it. And it's just like, it seems off, right?
Well, that's
so it's not
promising.
Bad. It's not bad. It just feels like a weaker retelling of the story, but the gameplay itself feels tight. It feels like they understand Halo. It's just the cinematics team needs more work.
That's so interesting. I think this is they went with the cinematics in-house instead of using Blur Studios for this one.
Yeah.
Because Blur does great work, and that's a bummer that they didn't carry that quality over.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, remember, they basically fired the entirety of 343 when they remade it into Halo Studios. So this is like many of their Halo Studios' first crack at cutscenes.
Well, I hope it's only positive from here.
Yeah, it's it also maybe changed a little bit, and maybe because it's early access and they may still have patches that they're gonna push.
Maybe, yeah. So. Yeah, I think
so maybe that's a bug.
I do not have access yet, but I definitely am looking forward to playing when I do. We got to set that up. Maybe do it on stream.
Yes. I'm available all next week. So
awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this talk. This was a good check-in on what's going on with Star Citizen, what happened this year, what might happen for the rest of the year. I'm sure people will walk away from this thinking that we are either all negative or all positive. I hope that this conversation carried some nuance for those who are listening, and if there's anything you should take away from this, it is that, like always, neither of us are like full-on death on this game. Neither of us think it's going to be the best thing in the world. We're just kind of looking forward to a good space
games.
Yeah.
We like space games. We want to see more space games. And I will say this. I am optimistic about the rest of this year because of what Benoit has said and because of that roadmap roundup. I feel like they're making the right corrections. And I feel like the response from the community has been positive enough that they'll continue to make these corrections going forward. The only thing I'm a little skeptical about is, will these corrections continue beyond 5, 6, 7, 8 months and go into the culture at CIG? I'm hoping they will. Hopefully it is that last sort of puzzle piece to lock into place to get this game not only a functional game that we want to play, but a game that is functional beyond the initial release of those patches.
Yeah. And something I'm betting they're watching very closely is momentum. Right now, they are currently 32.3% ahead of last year in earnings, and they got that far ahead in large part due to like March and April, but in big part due to May. I'm actually showing anybody who's watching the video live right now, you can see they're 32.3% ahead of last year. So it's going to be interesting over the next couple of months to watch this percentage and see if they start to fall behind on their momentum, gain momentum, stay the same, because that might determine whether or not they keep going with this model. If they can turn towards quote unquote fixing the game and still be making cash hand over fist, that's a good sign for us. If things start to slow down, they might course correct. And all of this got to be remembered, guys, that they do have private investors who are watching the health of the game, the community, what's going on. They have a put option worth 71 million pounds that ends in September. So
they may be watching this podcast right now. Not to put pressure on you, Tomato, but you know,
man. Leave your comments down below if you are. We'd love to hear from you.
I got a couple $1 million pound idea, a couple million pound idea. Please call me.
Oh man, that would be true. I hope you guys are spending your time more intelligently than watching my podcast, but if you are, appreciate it. And anybody else who has been watching, thank you so much for doing so. We do this every week, generally not live on the stream like this, but if you are a supporter, Twitch subscriber, Patreon supporter, YouTube member, you can join us on Discord to check out the podcast live every week, ask questions to our guests, put in your little thoughts on the side chat, whatever you like. And we're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to listen to it audio-wise. If you want to just plug it in during your commute, you can do that. But first, I got to say goodbye to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining me. Let everybody know where they can find your content.
Twitch.tv/theastropub, youtube.com/@the Captain's Table Podcast if you want to see a podcast similar to this. And if you want to see me play video games, youtube.com/the Astropub Live. And if you want to hear lore and more, you can check me out at youtube.com/the Astrohistorian.
Very nice. Yeah, you guys, his show is really good because it feels like the entry gate to content creation for Star Citizen. Like if you're going to make content for Star Citizen, go on the Captain's Table, talk it out. It's always a good time.
I love to have new content creators come on and talk about their experiences as well, because it's always interesting to see people who are either from other communities coming to Star Citizen or just starting out as Star Citizen content creators themselves, to hear their thoughts on the game. It's always different. It's always different than I'm expecting.
Yeah, it's good fun. Gives you that reminder of what it was like. Speaking of which, as he just mentioned, I want to mention, because I need to get the word out there, we are starting a new YouTube channel. We're actually moving the live stream over to Space Tomato Live. So if you're interested in keeping up with the streams and whatever comes from them, make sure to check that one out on YouTube. And for anybody who's watching the live stream, I'm not going offline. I will be jumping right back in a minute here. I just got to move my camera over and get everything set up, and we'll be back in game shortly. But thanks again, everybody, for listening. If you're live, you're chilling at home, watching this after the fact, doing whatever you do, second monitor content, I don't care. We appreciate you. Thanks so much for being here, folks. I'll catch y'all next week.
Thank you for listening while washing your dishes.
All right. They're clapping again. We've done it. You guys can't see me or chat. Okay, well, what's the point of having my camera up like this then? Hey, everybody. Welcome in, folks. It's good to see you. I know that you can't see me, but I promise I'm smiling. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for that podcast that just happened. That was a great time. YouTube, it looks like your chat's not showing up for me on the joint chat, so let me double check what's going on there. I'm having a lot of technical issues this morning. I think we're just having some server ingest problems as we switch over our stream to a new provider. So I'm sorry about that, guys, but I promise YouTube I can still see you. Let me see if I can't log streamer bot back in, and maybe it will start to correct it then. I do want to say a thanks, though, to the good folks of the Toes Gang. We got a few subs over on Twitch. Thank you so much to 98 Infinity. Got us started off real early. I see that Just Game came in here, Mr. 1945, Mr. Worldwide. Appreciate you, dude. Drop some bits. Much love, man. I hope you're having a wonderful week and a good day. Astropub, the guest on the podcast today. I hope you guys enjoyed the talk with him. He dropped his sub, 45 months supporting the stream. Love you, dude. Appreciate you. Sky Senpai, you as well. Thank you so much for 45 months supporting the stream. Holy crap. Y'all are real ones. Or sorry, Sky Senpai did the Prime sub. I was still reading Astropubs again. And then Deadly Pajamas. Thank you. 9 months. Twitch, baby. Good times. All right. And 77, thank you for the 10 memberships over on YouTube. That's actually Toes Gang energy. I'm going to do the same thing I always do for Toes Gang, including the clapping. You guys can't see it, but I promise. The kids are real appreciative of you. I'm writing it down. Listen to them. Today, my friends, we're going over some new who's. We are going to be hitting up the dev replies that have been coming onto Spectrum because Highlander is back active. And whenever Highlander is active, that means there's a chance we're getting some economy information. So we're going to touch on this, what's been going on the dev forums over the course of today. And then I'm just going to talk to you guys about like questions. We'll just do a little bit of question and answer. If you have anything you want to talk about, we absolutely can. I don't think I'm going to hop in game. I was planning on running some Recco Battaglia missions, but I'm running short on time and need to get to some video work. Did we get... Hello, Mr. Board Gamer. How's it going, dude? I don't know if you rated us on YouTube or not, because YouTube is terrible about telling us that kind of stuff, but it's great to see you. It's been a while since we've chatted, man. I would love to have a sit down and hear what your thoughts on the game are right now, because holy crap. What a time it is. Do I think that the Pioneer is the new Banu Merchantman? It feels similar because the ship was having real work done on it, and then nothing for about a year. Nothing for about a year. How long has it been since we heard about the Pioneer? Let's see. We can look into this. The old ship track and ship sheet, which is being, there we go. Pioneer. Huh? White box continuing in May 2025. So we did get an update in May. Not that long it's been. I do think that it's still in the works, and it also is way more crucial to the game than the Merchantman is. The Pioneer is an actual function. The Merchantman is just a glorified store flying around. So I think not as easy for them to put in a box for development as the Pioneer is. But it is a big ship, and we haven't seen an update on it in 2 months, and I have not added the notes down here. Hope we get to see them. Okay, you know what?
Try our team for 7 days, and if you're not impressed, you don't even have to pay us. We will help you strategize, ideate, script, film, edit, and distribute across all social media platforms.
Toes.
Interspace. Location unknown.
Everyone okay?
I'm fine, sir.
Did we get it?
Jump point is charted, sir.
Good. Comms, we got any contact?
No, sir. Scope is clear.
Keep looking. Scarlet, take us on the tour.
With pleasure.
All yours, Doctor.
We've got a protoplanet, no atmosphere. Unknown planet 2. There's an atmosphere.
Doctor.
It could sustain life.
So that is the original trailer for the exploration-focused constellation. And this right here, this.
Jump point is charted, sir.
That one line is probably the stupidest thing that they've ever done in advertising exploration for this game. Because that one line insinuates in this entire trailer that these people just jumped into an unknown star system, discovered a new star system, simultaneously then scanned a new planet and discovered that it could support life, and then simultaneously found humanoid life on said planet, and then left their ship and walked around. And I'm pretty sure this was released in 2014 before landing on freaking planets and exploring was a thing. So, yeah, this is a stupid f***ing trailer. And it doesn't at all represent what Star Citizen is is in terms of exploration, and I don't even know if it really was that accurate to back then either. The chances of this kind of thing happening are ridiculous, and I guess that's why you put it in a trailer and sell the ship. But yeah, this is an old trailer, 2014. Maybe we'll get exploration to the sense of you will land on a planet and discover that a certain type of thing grows on that planet, but I don't think nobody's discovering planets or systems. This was a game that had 100 star systems and no planetary exploration, and everything was instanced. So maybe this could have been possible in that game, but it's a different game now, and that's why a lot of people hate it, or at least don't have a lot of faith in it. Also, you know how long it would take to fly to this planet from that distance? But yeah, there you go. And then this guy, get off my screen. The original Ursa looked so strange back then. A lot of stuff looked very interesting back then, art-wise, compared to what it is now. Did we even have a PU then? No. No, I think that was, we were still waiting for Arena Commander 2.0 at that time. I think the PU launched, well, no, actually, that would have been close. 2014 was when the PU launched. This was August of 2014. Star Citizen Persistent Universe launch was... oh, it was 2015. Okay, yeah. So no, we didn't even have a Persistent Universe then. There was no idea of flying around and doing stuff with your friends. It was definitely the time of Imagine. It was after they did the Valacar thing that we thought it could happen. And this was 3 years prior to the Valacar, or 2 years? 2 years prior to the Valacar. You'll be honest, you don't think you saw this back in 2014 and thought, oh my gosh, we're going to be finding new planets and new life. It was just a cool video that showed possibilities, not promises. I don't think that you're alone in that, P-Wolf, but a lot of people did. And the way that the game was discussed would leave people to believe that, I think. Look at what they've made in the PU planets, jump points. They're literally creating that vision. You're not going to find any undiscovered systems. I think we should all settle on that right now and be surprised if there's something that changes. But as of right now, don't think that you're going to discover undiscovered star systems in Star Citizen. It's not. It's just going to hurt later on when it might not happen. And yeah, everything's been kind of charted, you know, not explored. I think maybe you can discover stuff on planets. I just don't think that we're going to be discovering star systems. I don't know. Maybe. No, we aren't getting 100 star systems, at least not at the launch. And I don't think they're ever going to make it that far. But I don't think they need to, with the way that the game is being created now. 100 star systems would be insane. I'm just gonna write something down real quick, folks. It might be possible. Just wait till 2040. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, of course. A lot of people are dumb as well. It doesn't mean them not being able to comprehend nuance. Doesn't mean CIG should be sorry about a fun video. Well, I'm not saying they should be sorry about it, but they definitely are. Like, people are going to be disappointed by it. CIG can act however they want after that kind of stuff, but all these things that they've put out are going to set people's expectations, and even if people are dumb, it's still the noise that they're going to have to deal with. Certainly noise that we have to deal with as the community. You think they'll have 100 star systems when SC is as old as WoW is now? Yeah, if it can make it that far, like if this game goes to 1.0 and then it runs for another 20 years, who knows what could happen? That'd be amazing. They could put our blank system for base building with several planets to scan, but it will only be undiscovered until the first player goes there. Yeah, exactly. You meant star systems, and if not, how are we going to get alien systems and planets then? Well, they're going to have more systems, just not necessarily 100. 5 are starting, and those 5 systems that we're starting with will not include a lot of the other ones. Let me see. Oh, gosh, I don't know if their Arc Star map is still broken. Preferably not. Arguably, probably, yes. Let's try. Dude, I need a new browser. Chrome, you drive me crazy. And Edge just opens PDF, so I never know what's going to open when that opens. Okay, it's just freaking ad blocker. Let's see if it can open here. If I could, I would show you the different starting star systems they were expecting. Not the starting, but like the star systems that exist in Star Citizen's lore. But I can't even... Their f***ing website's so broken that I can't even access the map. I guess we could just look up something like this. Alright, so this is the star map, right? And if you zoom in, you can see where we are is going to be... here's Magnus, my favorite system. We got Pyro right here, Min. You know Pyro connects to Stanton, so where is that? Is this an old freaking map? Stanton's not even on here. That's crazy. Alright, this might give us a better look. So, you got the Stanton system right here. And they put the Pyro system at the center, I guess, of the Eastern Empire, we'll call it. Western Empire is around Seoul. And you'll be able to see that the first 5 star systems are really this central sort of area. So Castra is here, Pyro is there, Nyx is there, Stanton's there, and Terra is there. And this map, it looks like... Oh, it's made by Jail! Hell yeah! Love Jail. Is made to show the distance from these 1.0 systems to the rest of Star Citizen's systems. So as you can see in the outer ring, like this would be the next sort of grouping of systems that we could see. Odin is here, which is where the game takes place, Squadron 42. And Vega is where the beginning of Squadron 42 takes place. So they're already moving kind of in this direction. But there's also a couple other systems that are known in Star Citizen. For instance, the Ellis system, which is my second favorite system and a big part of me and Mrs. Tomato's lore and background and really the most important things to us in life. And Ellis is connected by Magnus, which we already have the jump point from that goes to Stanton. Ellis actually has some racetracks and arenas and stuff in Arena Commander. If you've ever played that, you'll see some of Ellis there. So some hints that they might move in that direction. There's also Hadrian, which is where the Astropub believes that they might be moving for various reasons. I don't remember what exactly they are, but I do think it has a jump point to Pyro. Overall, though, you can tell there are a lot of freaking star systems here, and these 5 are the only ones we're getting for 1.0. So the idea of going and finding new star systems is a little out there. You'll see that we have Xion systems, we have some Banu systems that are scattered throughout. There are Vandal systems up in this corner here, but none of them are connected to the first 5. I guess I guess OSO, which is a developing system. No, that wouldn't be. The only alien system that's connected to that 1.0 star systems when the game launches would be Virgil, which is a Vanduul system, which would be mainly combat, fighting, and stuff like that. It looks like the first system that might connect to another alien group would be... It's gonna have to be pretty far. You know, so they really come off as a bit of an expansion after 1.0 when you look at it this way. I do think we'll see the aliens in the game traveling. We'll see their ships. We'll see them. We'll be able to interact with them, take missions from them, and earn reputation. But their systems are fairly far away from our starting 5. Although CIG could always move that. They could just shift systems around if they want to. It's not against the law. So yeah, when you look at a trailer like the Constellation trailer, and you see this whole idea of...
What is an AI?
Oh my lord. You see this idea of finding a new star system.
I'm fine, sir.
I think the vibes are there. I think we'll get to do cool exploration and discoveries.
Did we get it?
I don't think it's going to be finding jump points. At least
Jump point has started, sir.
not new jump points. Maybe you could say that this is pointing at transient jump points. So I could show you that. That's something that actually does pick up this sort of idea. Let's say Star Citizen inside jump points. Listen to this.
Once you've found them, you don't know where they go.
Transient jump points are more ethereal.
First you have to find them, and once you've found them, you don't know where they go.
We like to call in the narrative team the Swiss cheese approach to jump points, which are smaller access points to the main tunnel. Those will still be restricted by small, medium, and large. So basically it opens up opportunities for smaller ships to kind of sneak their way through.
A transient jump point may only be able to be used once. It may be a little bit more permanent, but you can never tell how long does it last once you find it.
If people are looking to avoid scrutiny, we'll look for these sort of side routes to get into the jump point, to bypass, security or customs or stuff like that.
So there is some level of discovering jump points that I actually want to make sure I'm not being completely disingenuous about, but it's not new systems. These are generally backdoor entrances to other systems, which will be useful given crime and how it works, but isn't quite the same as this. Now, the other side of this is getting down to a planet and discovering things. I say in jest that this is not how Star Citizen will work, but like I said before, with the way they're doing planet tech, they do clearly want us to scan planets from high in orbit and be able to go down to those planets and find the things we think are there. That would be based around the fact that we don't know exactly where each animal, plant, and resource is located on a planet. So there is the chance to scan it down, land in this basin, and then come and find something that other people haven't found. Doesn't mean that it's impossible for other people to find it, but maybe nobody else has gone through the work or the trouble to get there. The big question is, can CIG make that feel like it's even worth it or interesting as exploration gameplay? And I'd like to take us back to what they actually were saying about Planet Tech. Was that last year? When he was literally describing this idea of seeing things from orbit and going down to find them, kind of like they are insinuating in that trailer.
Completely step up our game for them. So, let's approach this planet in much the same way that you, the player, will, from orbit. The orbit appearance of the planets going forward is far more tied to what is present on the surface. Previously, we had different data that drove the orbital and ground coloring. That's because the orbit was designed to look like vegetation that we'd place on the surface, and the ground coloring was trying to be a mix of soil, rock, and the organic compound coloring that forms the kind of colors there. Now we author much more of the data in a unified way. When you look at Earth, you see blues and greens for ocean and vegetation, and brown or yellowy tones for sand and soil. We wanted to keep it as simple as that. The same set of textures and data that define the color of the soil, sand, and rock on the ground are used to create the orbital look. We then assess the presence of vegetation and competition between different species on each part of the planet and use that to blend in tones of green, including variations due to species health and the current season.
So there's some level of diegetic exploration going on, allowing you to like see, understand, and act based on what you've discovered, but we still don't know how far it would go. This is missing a lot in terms of scanning and like the data retrieval and how you transport that data and who has access to that data. I think having mission boards at stations that require you to go and survey planets is a good way to get people to just do this out of habit. And then you start to fill in some of the things that are truly interesting for them to find when they're out there. That would be then going back to CitizenCon 2024, where they showed us their plans for, at the very least, maybe not cool things that you can discover, but all of the aliens like this that you might come across when you do land on planets. And these aliens won't, again, like I said, they won't have a defined place where we know to find them. So you still will have to explore to find them and get the right resources from them. And we've seen the matrix of that here.
Peak our fauna matrix. That's all from me. With that being said, influence their behaviors, designs, aesthetics, and harvestables. With that being said, I would like to give you a sneak peek at our fauna matrix. That's all from me. I'm very happy to be bringing the Valakar to all of our backers. It's really like nothing else you've played before. I'll leave you with this last video. Enjoy the rest of CitizenCon, everybody.
I don't see these. I don't see these guys in there. Maybe they're the offspring of one of these, which honestly, these look terrible. I hate these. they're not even colored yet, and I don't want to see them. But yeah, this all to explain that I don't think that exploration is going to look exactly like this. I do think there are parts of this in there, and I think that ultimately there's a lot of explaining that they're going to need to do to make this make sense to people. But at least if you connect the dots, it already does make sense. It's just dangerous to connect the dots when it comes to Star Citizen. And that's that. Can't wait for all of these creatures to be in game. You want to catch and domesticate one. One what? There were way too many animals there. And half of them look like they don't want to be domesticated. Can we actually go hunt Asoian hides? I don't know. I don't know where I guess Asoians are probably in the Oso system, so maybe if that ever comes to the game. But I did say before, there is some information I want to talk about here. For anybody who's watching this after the fact, my camera is not working because of my cam link, so we're just doing it old school. It's more fun this way. Now, Highlander gave us some information, and generally whenever Highlander is in the developer forums, we're getting economy stuff. So I saw his name, saw the topic. It is about engaging with meaningful PvP, and I thought we should probably check this out. So instead of doing the thing that I said was a problem with Spectrum already, I'm just going to open all of his responses and then get an idea of what the actual question is. The problem with this is you never know if his reply is replying to somebody else, or I think it is. I think these are all replies to other people, but you can't see the comment. So I guess I'm going to have to click into the thread itself and just search. But initially, this post on Spectrum said, see how easy it is to get engaging and meaningful PvP, CIG. With Alpha 4.9, we saw some new commodities added to terminals and Pyro. These specifically are much higher return on investment than what we've had prior. I know Partilium used to be like this back during the Partilium Wars. What's been going on at Ashland and Chala's Beach since the start of 4.9 is the perfect example of how CIG should be using profit and greed as a carrot on a stick. Since then, we've seen a massive uptick in the amount of PvP that's purely focused on singular objectives in Pyro. We've seen traders using escorts, ground pirates, pirates being pirated, PMC groups protecting random players, and skirmishes that involve 10 to 20 players, both on foot and in the air. Sounds like a good time, man. We were out at, I don't remember where we were. We were next to Chala's Beach, and we were like completely unbothered. I guess it's probably on certain servers. The magic bullet here, he says, cranking the ROI. Pyro is risky, and while there are definitely traders that do commodity trading, the bulk of players opt to do contract hauling. That's because the commodity trading is still just so not intuitive that I think a lot of people just don't get a chance to get in there and try it out, wrap their head around it without it being a little bit too intimidating. He said, I implore you to continue to add commodities around the various POIs of Pyro that have ROIs high enough to draw players there. This makes sense. And this is honestly how they talked about Pyro. Pyro was meant to be a dangerous place that was worth more. But then it kind of came into the game and was not what it was supposed to be. Now, Highlander, who is a developer working a lot on economics and trade, last time we checked in with him, he was explaining the different tiers of cargo hauling trade. That was towards the beginning of the year, so he oftentimes has something to share on this. Responded. He said, howdy. I worked on this. I do most of the sandbox commodity prices and trade routes. First off, I'm glad you like the new routes. I've been working on getting momentum to try something like this for a while, ever since the Osoi and Hyde route went pretty well. I've been stalking Ashland in game for a few days now. You may or may not have killed me, stolen my Alespo, had your stuff stolen by me, or hit me with a railgun. I would find it hilarious if he was like, I may have used some dev tools to take you out, sorry. But also not, because people would lose their minds. He said he's usually in a Titan or a Zeus, and he's proud to say, I have lost much more UEC than I gained since the patch dropped, and I regret nothing. I always prefer, let's hear it here. Devs do play the game. There's at least one confirmation. I always prefer communicating more with y'all about the reasoning and goals behind what we do, so let's do that. He quotes him, CIJ, I implore you to continue adding commodities around the various POIs that have high ROIs high enough to draw players there. The response from Highlander says, this unfortunately isn't an infinite good content faucet. Routes like this hit diminishing returns pretty fast. I want these locations to be a hotbed of danger and death. That's an intentional design goal. I want somewhere that players who log into the game and feel like they are hungry to shoot someone down can go reliably and find others who knowingly are willing to risk that. It's good to hear. It's good to hear. It's great to hear him say that. Not only because that gives them the gameplay they desire, but because it keeps more of them out of the low profit routing lanes. Player bases aren't exactly zero sum, but they aren't that far away from it either. The more predators are at the watering hole, the more prey. He said player bases. The more predators at the watering hole, the more prey that aren't at the watering hole can feel safer. Right. This goes all the way back to the previous Star Citizen game director, Todd Pappy, in which he was answering a question about this, about how they want to have players going to specific places and other players that aren't interested in those places not going to specific places.
And, are you turning
this is in 2020.
Zones? Are you,
it's very quiet.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, it's incredibly quiet. I should have opened all of this on my other browser. That's my bad.
Stanton is a somewhat lawful system. It's got UEE versus Pyro is supposed to be a very unlawful system, or lawless system. And then, so where players want to be able to find the PvP versus where players don't want to find it. They want to focus more on PvE. I would start there. So they start at, what system should I be in? What system, do I want to go to? And
if I'm in Terra, I probably should feel pretty safe. If I'm in Pyro, I should be looking over my shoulder.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, and, with that, it basically comes down to, we'll never be able to 100%, guarantee, hey, you're 100% safe. And frankly, we don't want to do that. And I would put it more on the scale of, let's say, 90 to 10, or, and maybe in a lawless area, it's the complete opposite. It's 10 to 90 kind of thing. So, we never want it to be a 0. We never want it to be 100%. So, but even then in Stanton, we still want there to be areas for people to look for PvP. We still want there to be areas that are, mostly geared toward PvE. So it will really just depend on kind of how the player goes about looking for them. And then, are you turning off the monitored zones? Are you, basically out in the middle of nowhere? So, and if so, then yeah, then I think it should happen there. Then we also obviously have like abandoned space stations and Jumptown and these
Korea, the hotspots.
Exactly. So we have certain hotspots, within the system that I still think they're 100% valid, and that people should be able to go there and try that out.
This is all about a shift from the original vision of Star Citizen, which Chris Roberts actually did actually say he wanted to have somewhat of a PvP preference. Basically, the ability to jump into instances that had people who didn't want to do PvP. So you could say, let's see if I can find the specific quote here. I think this might be it here. So you could get pulled out of your quantum travel as you travel through the space instance. Back in this time period, the entirety of your star system would be instanced. So each planet, each space station, each location in the game would be an instance, and you would just transition from one instance to the other. And what they're saying here is that you would be able to run into people in the Galaxy server instance. So it would determine whether you would encounter a hostile, someone that has tagged you as a POI, or a predetermined encounter on the way. They go on to say these encounters could be with an NPC or a live player and are sorted on skill level, and also, which is important to all of you who like a more single player experience and don't want to deal with griefers, based on your player versus player preference. So if you've set your game settings to be low PvP and you're in a relatively safe area, you'll likely have an NPC encounter as opposed to a PvP one. Now they say likely. They never wanted to completely take the idea of PvP out of the game, but this model for the game died in 2014 when they decided to not do instances everywhere, but do a free game that was open to all. And then they transitioned to this sort of idea of danger was geographic. It was based on where you were, not necessarily what preferences you set for yourself. And you can see this in the 1.0 panel from the new Star Citizen PU director. The guy who took over from the one we were just listening to says something very similar here.
In Stanton, Castra, and Terra, and 2 of them being unlawful in Pyro and Nyx. So what's the difference? Let's take a look at Stanton. Lawful systems will be a mixture of high, medium, and low security areas. Each of these areas will be monitored by law enforcement agencies, and depending on the location, will dictate the emergency response time, with high-sec areas being the fastest. Initially, this response will be measured, but over time will escalate to overwhelming force. This means if someone is attacked, if they can just hold out for a short duration, help will be on the way. Pirates will be able to disrupt this monitoring by shutting down the nearby comm arrays, but this will be highlighted in your star map, with dynamic missions being generated to bring it back online. But this is the PvP you already know and experience right now, just without security forces. But before we jump into an unlawful system, let's explore what options you have if you pirate a ship.
Yeah, that's enough of that. But you guys get the idea. This is not a fringe idea. This isn't the kind of thing that might or might not happen. The fact that Highlander is saying this was reflected by the previous PU director, reflected by the current PU director, reflected by the way the game seems to be being designed. So, not that we needed all of that to confirm it, but now that we have that confirmed, he said if we have too many of these high rate return of investment options, then that concentration wanes, and part of the risk that makes it work in the sandbox balance is to allow such high ROI to fall off. We can definitely add some more of these locations in the future, but the main element that we'd need to add first is a better way in game for traders and pirates both to discover the current prices. Oh my dude, yes. I just started sweating reading that. And how much they have shifted via supply and demand. On this note, I agree with the Techno Bear. We'll have to find his reply. Dude, a freaking Mobiglass app would be awesome to hear about. It would have been great if he said something about that here. In specific, I'd really like to add an interstellar route that only sells 24 SCU crates exclusively, so we can push for more large ship sandbox gameplay to happen around there. As always, he said, a reminder to everyone, I don't speak for the whole company. Please don't snip my comments out of context and post them on Reddit. He says, at the very least, get them in context this time. That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? We love to all get around in a circle and do a rain dance about a out of context comment. Let's see where else he has replied in this thread. So, Cyberdancer asked, quoted, real profit comes from investing yourself. Asked, so we need some investing for pirates, otherwise they shouldn't get profit, you say. They need real risk to lose something. He did not ask that. He stated it. And Highlander responded, I agree. In some ways, I do think overall operating costs for combat need to go up. My dream scenario would be that players who are more focused on just shooting down ships more than actual piracy burn through money to do so, and then end up feeling pressured to actually make some profit themselves to recoup their losses. This is how I think many players feel. That's a tough balance point. That's a tough balance point to reach right now, without also putting extra pressure on the people whose ships randomly explode on takeoff. Ding, 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 ding. And that takes us back to Benoit, and really the whole conversation we just had on the podcast of how they need to get to the point where that first hour, and even just regular gameplay like crafting, keeping your materials, taking off and landing, they're reliable, or else this is just not going to work, because CIG, as we can see here from the devs themselves, they are saying, I can't do these things because the game's broken. Now, that's not his exact words. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what I'm getting from it. Because certain things in this game don't work how they're supposed to, we can't make changes that will impact the people who get hurt by those things. And that sucks. But it's also really, really nice to just see a developer say it outright. So hopefully we do see this kind of thing diminishing quickly so that we could start to move on to more interesting scenarios like this. And he finished off the comment by saying, in the current situation, attempting to actually pirate people is usually more costly and risky than just attacking prey on sight, which isn't a good long-term state for the sandbox. Honestly, not even a good short-term state. But to be honest, it's great to hear him talking about this. Durgan actually replied, we know Durgan, Mr. University of Stanton, said this game is janky, should never have to be a reason to hold back good game design. Good game design should exist and become the necessity to fix the jank. I agree to an extent. I would love for that to be the case, but I do think that no matter what, they're balancing on a needlehead, and they could just it could be really bad if they end up going too far in one way or the other in terms of like trying to just force things through versus trying to make it so that these sort of gameplay scenarios like pirating at least still happen to some extent. I'm going to go ahead and give the call out on Twitch and ask you guys to just stop your conversation now because it's turning into insults and y'all are just getting angry at each other for no reason other than it's Twitch chat. Just leave it be, guys, and let's just chill and look at what's still going on here. I appreciate y'all being passionate, but there's no point in name calling. Let's see where else he has replied. All right. Alex Protokin also made a comment. Said, this is just battle royale over money. Some like it, some don't. Funny enough, it only happens if a high enough reward is involved. Otherwise, people don't bother. So what's the real motivator here? FPS, ship combat, or just in-game cash? I don't care if CIG leaves this and people start bonking each other. At least they are somewhere else from where I am. Yeah, that was just nice. It's nice when like the game works naturally to attract certain people to certain places and everyone can play how they want where they are. Highlander responded, said that was quite literally part of the design, was to try and attract people away from other areas. He said, I personally play sometimes in a group and love PvP, but also sometimes when I'm playing on my own, I just want to run a trade route that I feel confident won't be jumped. That's one of the benefits of having multiple different ROI brackets for trading. Listen to this, man. Playing the game and having opinions about it and stuff. He continues, the goal here is to give the player who likes high-stakes PvP and high-risk reward situations a place to do so, and as a result, to sponge a portion of them away from jumping people on low ROI routes. This is exactly what people want. He says, I don't think we've completely succeeded on that front with just this route, nor do I necessarily want to succeed 100% on this front, but I do think it's shown to be an improvement for the game. I'm interested. I'm glad that he's mentioned this too. It's unfortunate that he did because mentioning it on its own changes the organic engagement that happens in the location. But it's also great because now I want to go and try it out. You know, I wouldn't have been trying cargo routes going out to those locations, but now I want to see what's being experienced in the game like that. Maybe sometime next week we can do that. Derez responded, said, thank you. Are you talking about you make most of the commodity prices? Can you tell us if it's intended that Grimhex only pays 1 AUEC for SCU for stolen contracted cargo instead of 25% of the cargo value? The change happened in 4.8 and is still ongoing in 4.9. Highlander said, it is intended for now. Contracted cargo in general has some balance issues when it comes to its place in the sandbox, but we are hoping and working to make it integrate better. Unfortunately, part of the sandbox we have to currently exclude it from is the piracy component as well as crafting. I gotta agree that the contracted cargo in general, I mean, not even just contracted cargo. I've had issues where you get commodities from people that get sorted into the ownership system and then suddenly are very hampered in what they can offer the sandbox in terms of gameplay. Oh, you found these boxes from your friend? Cool, turn them in. Oh, you can't turn them in because they're stolen? Sucks to be you. And it's just kind of, I really, really wish that the ownership system in general, the system surrounding contracted cargo would get fixed because it's a pain right now. I think that might have been Highlander's last response here. Also see Sacks of Wine here. He was just on the podcast last week. SC Haulers, he's another YouTube channel you can go check out if you're interested in cargo hauling content. He said, I completely understand correcting Partilium's pricing back at its inception and agree with that choice just for clarity's sake. One thing I did take away from all this, though, is that the route itself matters just as much as the profit. When Partilium was first introduced, I never really bothered with it. Even after the pricing changes, the trip out to Bueno Ravine just wasn't worth the time investment for me. The profit was there, but the travel time made the juice not worth the squeeze. Love this. I love that people keep using this because, the juice. That has obviously changed and there are more sell options, but at the time, there wasn't. The Ashland to Chala's route feels different. The distance is short enough that the risk feels worth taking, which naturally encourages traders, pirates, and escorts to converge on the same area. To me, that is the real takeaway here. It isn't about having broken profits. It's about creating shorter, higher risk routes where the reward justifies the danger and the time invested. I would double down on that and say it's also about creating really predictable routes. Yeah, it sucks to take a route knowing that, like, there are probably pirates watching you, getting ready to jump you there, but that's kind of where this organic engagement comes from. One of the biggest places that I thought this would be a really cool opportunity was actually the Aaron Halo Belt. All my classics in chat know the Aaron Halo Belt is actually supposed to be controlled by ArcCorp and have absolutely massive gates, basically blocking off clear paths through the asteroid belt because it's so dense and you can't quantum travel through it. The idea behind this would be it's creating a choke point at the asteroid belt where people would, you know, generally if you're coming from the outer system, you'd still have to funnel into a location, go through the asteroid belt, and then come out the other side. The most interesting part about this for me was that it would create opportunities for people to say, I don't want to go through the choke point. I want to quantum travel up and over the belt. Yes, I might run out of fuel. Yes, I might get stranded. Yes, there might be pirates out there trying to ambush us, but I'm going to take that risk because I'll make better time and I won't have to risk coming to this like central location. I think more natural locations like this in the game on large and small scales add into what Sacks of Wine is saying here about this trade route, and I would love to see more of that. But that's the kind of stuff that I don't think they were able to do until we reached past 4.0, when cargo hauling was physicalized from the cargo refactor, when we had multiple star systems to spread players out, when we had more than 100 people in a single game instance. These are all things that feel like they should be changing now, and I'm glad that we see Highlander talking about stuff like this. But I do agree with Sacks of Wine here. More of these like very purpose-built trade routes, they do a lot for the game. But that's about it. That's what I saw from this update. I don't know if it's necessarily news, so I'm probably going to put it on Space Tomato Live for all of you. Maybe a first upload. And a look into how the community is reacting to what's going on with cargo right now. Thanks for watching. Solo Shot, thank you for the sub, man. And Valis, you as well. And Anonymous! I don't know how I missed that. I was very busy. I was very distracted. I'm going to write your name down on the board, Anonymous, even though my camera's not working. You can trust in me. My face is very smiley right now. And the people, they're clapping. They're clapping. Thank you, Anon. You've been the, you've been holding down Toes Gang for the last 2 weeks. I appreciate you. Deep in the CIG sauce, man. Covered in it. Oh, the other day, Mrs. Tomato needed to get some skinless tomatoes for a dish she was making, which, first of all, was offensive to me. Okay, that's a war crime. You don't skin a tomato. Second, ew. I'm sorry. I love tomatoes as much as the next person, arguably more, even though I don't like eating them. But like, the idea of a tomato without skin kind of sounds gross to me. Like the look. It reminds me of what I imagined was that episode of Rick and Morty with the beam where they hit, oh man, what's her name? What's his Summer? Summer gets turned like inside out by the beam. Yeah, this one. This is this is immediately what I think of when you tell me a skinless tomato. Which is just, that's gross. Don't do that. Look at those lips. Ew. Is this channel supported by Twitch drops? Yes, we will have Twitch drops. They're not currently active. Anybody who is advertising Twitch drops to you right now on Twitch is trying to trick you. They won't be active until, I think, the 29th, they said. So don't worry about it. When it does happen, yes, you'll be able to earn your Twitch drops here. But for now, we're just normal dropping. Sane Zero, thank you for the super chat, dude. On YouTube, appreciate you. Don't know if you've seen this post on Spectrum, wondering what was your take on Spectrum. How is development actually carried out? Let's see. We love a good Spectrum post. Is it a dev post or? Generally, I'm just covering dev posts or like dev responses here. Let's see. Oh, Gamescom. Okay. We got our, there's a lot happening today, I guess. We got our Gamescom announcement, folks. CIG will be at Gamescom this year. Were they at Gamescom last year? When's the last time they went to Gamescom? I feel like it's been a while. Like a long time. Here's a 2014 visit. Let's see, their history at Gamescom. Okay, maybe I should just make a video about this because I don't know how many times they've been to Gamescom, but I'm pretty sure it's been a while. What's all this? Hold on, you know how to look it up? Cloud Imperium Games, Gamescom 2026. See, that doesn't even pop up yet. No, I don't think they've been going to Gamescom, guys. I think this is a new one for us. So maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Either way, definitely part of this same marketing push that we've been talking about and tracking across the year. They've already gone through one convention, talked to some creators there, made some noise. A couple articles came out, a couple posts with Corsair stuff involved, Variety article, the bus ads, the fact that the bus ad was confirmed by the marketing agency, and this letter inviting folks out to Squadron 42 playdates in October. This, in my mind, is part of that. So we'll include this here. We'll probably replace it with an actual shot of the convention when that comes by. But I'll give you guys a read through of what they say about the announcement here. Gamescom is almost here, and we're looking forward to bringing the Star Citizen community together in Cologne. Join fellow citizens and members of our team for an evening of talking ship, giveaways, great company, and of course, a culture 3. Let's do like 3 or 4 or 5, and then ask them about Squadron. It's going to be happening Friday, August 28th, 6 p.m. at Bonn. Please note that seating is limited, so we can't guarantee entry for everyone. Admission will be on first come, first served basis. We're also bringing something special to mark the occasion. Could it be a copy of Squadron 42, please? Or maybe even just a release date, possibly? Just like a piece of paper with a release date on it? Origin Jumpworks was founded in Cologne, Germany in 2747. So naturally, we're bringing a little Origin history home. Everyone who attends will receive a free M80 in-game poster. How about a real poster? Love a poster. How cool would it be to have gotten like a metal disc plate of this? That'd be so clean. Holy crap. Can't make it to Gamescom? There may be other opportunities to secure the poster in the future. But if you maybe like buying it from a shopping game? But if you want to be among the first to display it in your hangar, come out and join the fun. We'll also have... That's not FOMO. We'll also have Bar Citizen scratch-off cards and no shortage of other giveaways throughout the evening. Solid. They are looking for great photos and posts from the event, so remember to use the Bar Citizen hashtag when sharing your photos. You should be featured on our social channels. This falls in line with what they've been doing. Like, it's just part of this marketing campaign that continues to be kind of low-key. None of these are like major things. They skipped Summer Games Fest. They didn't even do a letter from the chairman for their 1 billion mark, but they're clearly starting to market more and more to the casuals, to the normies. And this is just the latest in that line. So we'll see where this goes. Keep an eye out for what goes on at Gamescom. This I think, is the last big chance for them to announce a delay. Because if they release a trailer at Gamescom that has a release date on it, most of the people who are watching that trailer, you know, normal people, aren't thinking about 2026. They're probably going to see that date and think, oh, they have an actual date. We'll see if that happens. They're not sitting there thinking in their head, this is supposed to come out in 26. This is supposed to come out in 26. This is supposed to come out in 26. They're just going with whatever gets said. So I hope that they announce whatever they need to announce at Gamescom, and we can be done with this. Why can't you see my calming visage? It's not so calming today. No, I'm having camera problems, like the goat Fola said. But yeah, I hope we get a release date either way. This is their announcement. Star Citizen, sorry, is going to Gamescom. Let's see, they were talking about the Spectrum redesign. I guess I must have missed this comment from Highlander when he got killed. That's funny. Spectrum redesign phase 1. They got their feedback. I think this is a response to the feedback about the responses, but I can't tell because of the literal problem the feedback was about. This one is here. Okay, cool. They said it's on their most wanted updates list. That's fantastic. Also, here's Lanier. Hello, Lanier. And Corbin. Hello, Corbin. Look at us. Gardeners on Spectrum. All right, what was this post about? How is development actually carried out? I'm guessing that's on this one. The SC forum. No, I don't know where that post is, unfortunately. If there's anything that you want me to bring up in the stream, though, please drop it in the Discord channel for reactions. That makes it easy to pull up. I need a cheap USB PNP webcam. Doesn't have to be 4K. I actually have a webcam. It's just that my setup is using a teleprompter, so in order to set up the webcam, I'd need to take the teleprompter off and then remove the camera and then mount the webcam and then set up another cord, and I couldn't do that before the podcast, so I just had to jump out. I need to get a VTube model. I got to get a tomato that walks and talks and twerks when I do. Interesting they didn't say they are attending the convention, but instead just that they are doing this Bar Citizen. This is interesting. They didn't necessarily say they had a booth, huh? They said that they had limited seating. I wonder if it's just a Bar Citizen then. That's a really good point. Hold on a second. Let me go back to that real quick. So what is this? Yeah, okay, so this is just a local bar. I see. Yeah, that is a very good point pointed out in chat. This is not actually the place where Gamescom is taking place. This is just in the city with Gamescom. So it's not an event on their part. It's not even sounding like it's going to be like this. I don't know if they do this kind of stuff at these conventions. Like where you can have booths for games. I think that is the case, but it doesn't seem like they're going that far with it. They're more so doing the same old where they have a local meetup. Anybody who is there for Gamescom can also come and get checked out. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Pours a little bit of cold water on it. We'll see where that goes. Do I have chat on the teleprompter? I do. Yes, I do. When I'm not using it for something else, I put chat on there. They doing it for PAX West too? Local large brewing place you'll be going to? Okay. Okay. So finding opportunities to do Bar Citizens, not necessarily a chance to make a big announcement. Sag. I still think it falls, maybe it doesn't fall in line with this near as much. All right. You have anything else to go over? It's quite late. I got to get to video work, folks. I think we've touched on everything today. Thank you all for joining me for this. I hope you enjoyed the live podcast. I don't normally do them live on the stream, but like I said during the show, if you guys are supporters in any way whatsoever, even if you've been gifted a sub, you can always come and check out the podcast in our Discord every Friday. Bring in a new guest and you can give them some questions, make some comments, riff them a little bit. You know, it's good times. It's good fun. I should have a video out for you guys tomorrow looking at actually what we went over on stream not too long ago. Basically all the different spaceships that have real life or sci-fi counterparts and other IPs like Star Wars. Thought I had that list here somewhere to show you guys, but I don't see it. So that should be coming out. Oh, there it is. This one. I'm making a video basically covering all of these ships and showing their comparisons to the other ships that look like them. So that should be coming out tomorrow or Sunday. And besides that, I'll be back with you guys next week, probably with a Halo stream or two, and most definitely with the Streamathon as we kick off Twitch drops and 4.9. What is Genesis? But why not on the roadmap? They showed buildings 2 years ago. Genesis is a bunch of Planet technology, like a few different systems combined, but it is on the roadmap. If you go to the roadmap and you go to the 1.0 column, you will see the different Genesis cards on here in Cortec. Here's Genesis Starchitect, Genesis Planet Tech, and Genesis Dynamic Weather. Can we do a deep dive on the Pioneer and base building on Space Tomato 2? I'll get that lined up for next week. We can talk a little bit about base building. Thank you guys for being here. Have a wonderful day. Treat yourselves well. Do something you love today, guys. Eat something you love. You deserve some good things. You're good people. Good conversation. Absolutely love you guys. Have a great one. I'll see you all tomorrow.